For the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Supervisor File.
Here.
Clerk Newbeck here. Treasurer Brown.
Here.
Trustee Hayward.
Here.
Trustee Morocco.
Here.
Trustee Nalamothu. Here. And Trustee Tedder.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, board and public announcements, just to refresh everybody's memory on the rules, that I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to talk, so you will have 5 minutes to come up and state your name, where you live, and make your presentation or comments. Understand the board does not respond to those, neither at the public or at the comments here at the beginning or at the actual line item. When we come to an agenda item, please refrain from, when you come up here in the beginning, if you come up in the beginning, do not make comments regarding the agenda items. You'll have an opportunity when we come to that agenda item to make public comments. Okay? All right. That being said, does the board have any comments? Carrie.
Just want to remind everyone, this weekend, this Saturday, is Independence Fest at Clintonwood Park. The hours are 11 a.m. until dusk. A few years ago, the board switched it up, and we were no longer holding it on July 4th, so I want to remind everyone so that you'll have an opportunity to attend. There will be fireworks in the evening. More information can be found on the website or on the Township Facebook page. We hope to see you there. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other board members?
I
No?
do. I'm just going to piggyback off
Trustee
that
Carey.
one, that they still hold the parade itself on the 4th of July, morning of the 4th of July.
Okay. Anyone else? No, I would like to take a moment to recognize Melissa Whiting. She has achieved an important professional milestone. She's our HR manager and has officially earned her SHRM certification. It's an accomplishment that reflects not only our hard work and dedication, but also our commitment to excellence in serving our employees and the township. So congratulations. All right, with that, I'm going to open it up to the public. Does anybody have any announcements they would like to make? No? Okay, I'm going to close the announcements for the public. Anybody online?
Announcements or comments?
Announcements. Okay, then I'm going to close the announcements. And we're going to move over to the public hearing, which we don't have any at this time. And the next thing is the presentation of the 2024 financial audit. And that'll be presented by, what did I miss? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah, we
Sorry.
missed comments.
I skipped over the public comment part.
Items not on the agenda.
For public comments for any item that's not on the agenda. Does anybody have one? Okay. Is that a,
Are these general public comments?
yes, but that are not related to anything that's on the agenda?
I have
Well, then please come up. State your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Paul here, and I've lived here for 25 years. I own a landscaping company, and I'm very well known in the neighborhood, in the
I'm
community.
sorry, excuse me really quick. Can you restate that when you're at the microphone, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
being recorded? Thank
Okay.
you.
My name is Paul here. I've lived in the area for 25 years. I own a landscape company for 25 years. And just recently, I've had a run-in with the building department that seems to be picking and choosing which things they're going to require permits for. And what I understand is there was a permit change for brick patios, and I had a customer have a tag on his house that said, gave him a cease and desist order. Meanwhile, the neighbor right next door has a company doing the exact same work. They did not get a cease and desist order. I immediately came up here to find out that the permits had gotten changed. Within an hour and a half, I filed for the permit. This morning, that company's still working at that house with no permit, and I had to get a permit. I sent somebody to Bloomfield to get a permit. The permit was $350. My permit here is $1,900 for the same permit. So my question is, how is that possible?
It's public comments. We
I
don't
know you
respond.
can't say anything. That's a question that I would like you guys to ask yourselves. So I don't pay for permits, my customer pays for permits. So this customer wants to change out the brick around his driveway. Can anybody think that they would pay $1,900 for a permit so they can change out the brick around their driveway? Does that seem reasonable to anyone in this township? No, that seems totally
Please
unreasonable.
keep your
Okay,
address the,
that's all I have to say.
okay, thank you. Any more public comments? Okay, moving on then. The next thing is the presentation from Yo and Yo about the financial audit for 2024 for the township. Can you state your name, please?
Yep. Good evening. My name is Alan Panter. I'm a partner at Yo and Yo, and I'm here to present the audit. The materials that you have are the bound audited financial statements. You also have a copy of the single audit report that's also bound, and there is a stapled letter. I call that the governance letter. You've been distributed all of these. You also have a presentation here, which I understand will be shown on the screen. Is that right? Yes. And let me just start a slideshow here. Where is it?
If you go bottom right, a little bit more, oh, just to the left,
Oh, there?
yeah.
Yep, okay, there we go. Great, thank you. I usually print these to PDFs and use it that way, so, all right, great. So those are the materials that you have. The audit went well. We were here in April. We completed our procedures, and the audit was issued about a week ago in time for to be submitted to the state. The deadline of submission to the state is June 30th, so with the December 31st year end. So, we'd like to thank everybody that we worked with, especially the finance director, Linda Vance, and everyone on the teams that were led by Clerk Newbeck and Treasurer Brown. So thank you very much for everything that you did and all the assistance you provided during the audit process. We appreciate it a great deal. So, okay. Trying to get my notes here. Okay. All right. Our audit included an examination of the financial reporting process, of internal controls, certain aspects of legal compliance, and when certain matters are noted, it is our responsibility to communicate those in writing. Based on that consideration, we do have one audit finding to talk about and one management letter comment, which I plan to discuss today, and I'll get to that as I go through my presentation this evening. But my plan for this evening is to go through this presentation here. It's a high-level overview of the audit and the financial statements. We had a detailed discussion at the Audit Advisory Committee level, so that's something that meeting took, what, an hour and a half or 2 hours? We went through that. I'll be much more brief today. But I just wanted you to know that that meeting did take place. All right, so the first slide deals with the independent auditor's report. The purpose of an audit is to give you an opinion on your financial statements, not to detect fraud and not to give assurance on internal control. So it's a very important concept about what it is that we're here to do. We're here to give you an opinion on your financial statements, which is what is represented on this slide. So we gave an unmodified or clean opinion. That is the best opinion you can get. And it means a couple of things. It means, first of all, the statements are formatted in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So in other words, everything that's supposed to be in the statements is there. And also, based on the procedures that we perform, the numbers are good. So unmodified opinion is definitely what you want to see. Okay? All right, and I have a few graphs here to show you some very high-level overview of the township's finances. This first graph is a 5-year graph of You can, and this is just the general fund, you can see revenues, expenditures, and then the fund balance. So the revenues are the blue, the expenditures are the, I guess that's yellow, tan, and the fund balance is red. So you can see that the revenues are steadily climbing. The expenditures tend to jump around. They're down a little bit this year, but the fund balance is up. So you can see there that the fund balance in the general fund is it's a healthy fund balance. It represents about 140% of annual expenditures. So we always talk about how much do we have, how much should we have, how does that compare to historical norms in other communities. We always recommend a minimum of 15 to 20% of annual operating expenditures just for cash flow and operating purposes. So that's basically a minimum just to keep the business running. Beyond that, it just depends on what you have, what plans you have for the money. So you can see that this year the expenditures were down a little bit, and they were mostly the same. The only real difference there is transfers. So last year you guys had some transfers out to capital projects fund. So basically putting those money in savings accounts for capital, and that didn't happen this year. So that money just stayed in the general fund is what happened. So so that's there. All right, and the next two graphs break down the revenues and then the expenditures. So what we did here is we took the largest three sources of revenue in the general fund, and we gave you a 5-year plot of how those sources compare to each other, so you can see some trends. And then everything else is in other. So you can see the property taxes and you can also see kind of the relative weighting of these revenue sources just based on the height of the graphs, kind of as you compare them to each other. So, so you can see the property taxes that is going up steadily with the assessed value in the township. Intergovernmental revenue, that is mainly grants and also state shared revenue. You can see that it went up quite a bit in 2022. It's been coming down just a little bit as some of those grant funds go away, but it's still at quite a high level, more than what was received in 2020 and 2021. Charges for services is going up steadily as well, and most of that is investment income. So the last couple of years have had some pretty strong investment income. You can see in 2022 that wasn't such a good year, so that's really the drivers of what's showing up there. Okay, so that's excuse me, that's the revenue. On the expenditure side, we did the same thing here. We took the largest sources of expenditures, and we plotted those out in the same manner, and we put everything else in other. So you can see general government, those are your core services, your clerk, treasurer, supervisor, board, all those sorts of things. Elections, so this year was an election year, 2024 was an election year, so you would expect to see some additional expenditures because of that. Public safety is there as well. Now that's a little bit, I don't want to say deceiving, but you've got significant public safety expenditures that are outside of the general fund. So there's not a lot being expended in the general fund, but it's in a different fund, so it doesn't show up on this graph. Public works, and then recreation and culture. So the Parks and Rec department is a significant part of the general fund, and you can see that spending has gone up in recent years. And then, as I said earlier, transfers and other, it's mainly the transfers, and there you can see that's down this year. All right, the next two graphs deal with, I've got one graph for the water fund and one for the sewer fund. The first thing I want to say about, these graphs show long-term trends in these funds. One thing that I want to point out, though, is that these are historical numbers. So this is looking back in time, and these graphs both look pretty good, but that does not mean that 5 years from now it's going to look just as good. Okay, you're going to have to keep managing these the way that you have, and conditions will change over time. So I just want to get that out of the way, because I'm an auditor, and we are notorious for looking back. This is not a projection going forward. This is a historical. That being said, there are some things to take away from this. You can see that the revenues are the blue, the expenses are the, I guess, gray. The unrestricted net position is orange, so that's basically the fund balance. And then the tan bar is the capital. So that is the water system minus depreciation minus debt. So if you see that trending upwards, that means that your ongoing investments are more than what depreciation and debt are. And then if it's going down, the opposite is true. So in other words, you're not putting that investment in. So this is trending upwards, which tells me that you're continuing to make investments in the water system that exceed that depreciation and the debt payments. So that's good. Also, I can see here that the revenues each year exceed the expenses. So you are operating at with an income, operating income, and also the unrestricted net position is it dropped a little bit last year. This year it went up, but you can see it's pretty steady across the 5-year period of the graph there. So that's really a pretty good looking graph there for the water fund. All right, the next one is the sewer. Same format, same idea. Here you can see that the capital, the tallest bar there, was up this year, so there were some improvements made in the sewer system. You can also see that the revenues exceed the expenses each year by a pretty narrow margin, but they are exceeding the expenses. And the fund balance is in good shape in that fund. It exceeds your revenues and expenses for each year. All right. Next thing I want to touch on is the single audit. So this year there was a single audit. That is done, that's a federal program audit that is required when communities expend over $750,000. There was about $6.2 million expended this year of federal awards. We had, let me back up a second. We have to select what we call major programs for compliance testing. So we pick the largest programs for compliance testing. We do specific testing that the OMB gives us in the compliance supplement. And so we tested the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, as well as the drinking water state revolving fund programs there. We had no compliance issues, no federal findings to report. So that's a positive thing. On the internal control side, as I mentioned earlier, we did have a finding this year, and it has to do with audit entries. There were a couple of things that we noted in terms of there was a restatement that was necessary in the Corridor Improvement Authority and Downtown District Authority for property taxes that were not recognized last year. So that got recognized this year through a prior period adjustment. And also, during our audit procedures, we noted an adjustment related to state shared revenue that was about $500,000 of revenue that the township had not recorded. So that adjustment was noted by us, suggested, and then recorded by the township. So that results in a finding there. So that's communicated for you as well. That's all in the single audit report, which is the bound document that you have. There's also, as part of that document, there is a corrective action plan that is included with that. So that's the township's corrective action plan is included in the single audit document. Okay, last slide. I'd like to talk about the governance letter. So that's the stapled letter that gets distributed with the audit. It is a required communication. We issue a similar letter with every audit that we do. It talks a lot about plan, timing, and scope of the audit. It talks about any new GASB statements that we had. This year we did have 2. There was GASB 100 and GASB 101. 100, there was really no effect of that. 101 has to do with compensated absences. There was a change with that, but it wasn't a huge amount of money. So that was included. Basically what that does is it includes payroll taxes in the compensated absence liability, as well as any contributions to DC retirement plans. So that's what that did. The letter also includes any audit risks that we identified, corrected and uncorrected misstatements. I talked about that. The misstatement that I discussed just a second ago is listed in there. And then we do have a management letter comment, and that's basically just it's a comment. It doesn't rise to the level of what I talked about a minute ago with the findings in the single audit, this is really a suggestion for improvement. And what we're saying is that we noted there was some issues with the timeliness of property tax disbursements between the collection and the disbursement to the units where they go. In fact, a lot of that's the township's money, but there's other units involved as well. There's a state law that governs that, and we noted there were some delays in that. So we're just pointing that out and suggesting that somebody take a look at that. Any questions? That's all I have.
Any questions? No? Great, thank
No.
you.
Thank you.
All right,
Well done.
very good.
Thank you.
Easy peasy. All right, next on the agenda is the consent items. Make sure I got my stuff out here. All right, request to approve the Board of Trustees regular closed session meeting minutes of May 20th, 2025. Request to approve the June 17th, 2025 check run, including ACH, for $555,771.15. Ratify the June 3rd, 2025 check run, including ACH, for $1,026,344.02. May 23rd, 2025, and June 6th, 2025 payroll of $366,233.05 and $389,698.35 respectively, and the April 2025 ETF ACH wire transfer of $672,366.76. Number 3, request to approve policy amendment, accounts payable policy. Number 4, request to approve 2025 budget amendment number 4A, which is the corrected budget amendment for number 4. Number 5, request to approve 2025 budget amendment number 16, funding for Chestnut Hill, Spring Lake North, and Sheringham Woods subdivision SAD. Request to approve fireworks display permit for 2025 Lake Oakland Fireworks Fund, American Legion Post. 7, request to accept NODA interlocal community contracts for transferred funds. 8, request to adopt resolution number 2025-020 for the dementia-friendly community designation. Number 9, request to approve 2024 Community Development Block Grant Public Service Contract with the City of the Village of Clarkston. 10, request to ratify Brady Lodge rental with alcohol for June 14th, 2025. 11, request to approve Brady Lodge rental with alcohol for Sunday, July 6th, 2025. Request to approve Brady Lodge rental with alcohol Friday, July 11th, 2025. 13, request to approve Brady Lodge rental with alcohol Saturday, October 4th, 2025. And 14, to request to approve Brady Lodge rental with alcohol for Saturday, October 11th, 2025.
I have a question for Dan Kelly. Dan, on item number 5 is my subdivision. Do I have to recuse myself?
Yeah,
from this?
I
Yep.
think that'd be
Okay.
appropriate, yeah.
Okay, recuse myself from this vote.
I'll make a motion to recuse trustee Hayward.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. I'm sorry, I missed my eye. I was writing.
Do you want me to say it again?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Items removed from the consent agenda, there is none at this time. All right, on to the regular business. Again, for clarification points, that on the regular business, you will have an opportunity to come up and talk about it. You have 5 minutes. Again, come up, give your name, address, where you're from. Again, understand the board won't be responding. Board members, as they know, we have 2 opportunities to address the items on here for a total of 10 minutes for each one of the individual line items. So let's start with R1, which is to request to appoint board and committee members. The Parks and Recs and Senior Advisory Committee has 5 members with no more than 15. They're allowed the appointment. John Doolin and Daniel Nash will bring the committee total to a total of 15 members. So I'm looking for support to add both of these. Well, I guess we'd have to do it one by one. First one is for John Doolin.
Move to appoint John Dolan to the Parks, Recreation, and Seniors Advisory Committee with a term ending December 31st, 2027.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Move to appoint Daniel Nash to Parks, Recreation, and Seniors Advisory Committee with a term ending December 31st, 2027.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Well, I should have said opposed, but.
I thought you were saying carry.
I know.
I thought he was
Motion
too.
carried, sorry. All right, number 2, which is request to appoint board and committee members for the Video Center Administrative Board. The Video Center Administrative Board has 9 members, including the Township Television Manager and CCS Video Manager, who serve as non-voting members. The remaining 7 voting members are 1 member, which is appointed by the Clarkson Community School Board of Education. 1 member is appointed by the Township Board of Trustees. 3 citizens residing in the township are appointed by the Township Board of Trustees. 2 citizens residing with the Clarkson Community School geographical boundaries are appointed by the Clarkson Community School Board of Education. This one here, again, I'm presuming that, no, he can vote for himself? Perfect, all right,
Yeah, you can.
all right.
I'll make a motion.
We're looking to approve Dave Hayward as a member.
I'll make a motion to appoint David Hayward, trustee David Hayward, as a member of the Independence Television Video Center Administrative Board with a term to expire with his term on the Charter Township of Independence Board of Trustees.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Can I just make a sub-comment on that?
Yep.
So there will now be at least 1 opening as a resident position, correct? If there's anyone out there that is
Yes.
interested in applying.
So, and I can explain that a little bit if you don't mind, because I was the resident appointed, and I resigned that position so I could be properly appointed as the trustee, or the liaison to the board, so that's why there's an opening, so, thank you.
Okay. On to number 3. Number 3 is a request to approve the second reading and adoption of the, as I went through this, I apologize. I said there would be public comments. Did anyone have any public comments on the first 3 items? For the first 2 items, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the third item is going to be for the approval of the second reading and adoption of the revision to the ordinance, Chapter 6, Article 2, Section 6-2 and 6-21 for the speed exhibition. And for this, we have the Planning and Zoning Director, Brian Ottman.
Good evening, board members. This is, as Mr. File said, this is the second reading. We had our first reading a while ago now in March on this amendment. And really what this amendment is doing with our speed exhibition ordinance is trying to eliminate the yearly variance process that the track has to go through for various items. One is they have a public address system. They actually announce to the drivers through the PA now, instead of having them all go into the control tower. Also, they always ask for an additional race weekend, for vintage weekend. And the last one is really just a change in decibel levels. Cars today are louder. So 10 decibels is really unnoticeable to you or I, and it only recognizes on a sound meter, and they have a very good sound meter team, and they've given us their calibration settings for this year already. We did go out this year already and test the PA system, and you can't hear it from the back straightaway where all the homes are. And just wanted to point out too that we haven't had a complaint on the track in it well over, I think it's 6 years now. So they've done a great job, and Mr. Murphy is here from the racetrack, but they've done a great job in running the track for the last several years.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to public comments. Please again, state your name and address when you get up to the podium, please.
Good evening. My name is Brian Murphy. I'm actually a resident of Holly, but I'm the Vice President of Waterford Hills Road Racing. It's 4770 Waterford Road in the township. Brian stole all my thunder here. I don't have much more to say, except that he did say, and I want to just reiterate, that our main problem, in fact, we have no intention of increasing the level, the decibel level of the race cars. Our main problem is with basically the people that come in their street cars to drive on the track and break the sound ordinance, even though they're legal on the roads. So I appreciate the board taking the time to rewrite this and consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any comments online? All right, I'm going to close public comments for regular business number 3. Board, anybody? Trustee
Quick
Morocco?
comment. Brian, is this going to now eliminate his need to come back annually every year?
They still have to go through the inspection process with code enforcement and also building, but it'll eliminate his steps to come to the board. Every year they would send the same notification to the clerk, and then we'd go through this whole process. And usually it was always on consent agenda. So yeah, this would eliminate the need for that.
And this gives them one additional weekend for the year that they won't have to come and ask for
Correct.
special use for that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other? No? All right, close board comments.
I'll move to approve the second reading and adopt amendments to ordinance Chapter 6, Article 2, speed exhibitions, and authorize the clerk to publish notice in a manner prescribed by law.
Support. All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Clerk Newbeck, yes. Treasurer Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Hayward?
Yes.
Trustee Morocco?
Yes.
Trustee Nalamothu?
Yes.
Trustee Tedder?
Yes.
Supervisor File?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Good, excellent. All right, we have another one, which is the request to approve the second reading and adoption of amendment to the zoning ordinance, Chapter 50, Section 3.09, to add a new Section 3.09, subsection E, signage for public hearing. Again, we have Director Brian Ottman.
Last fall, this is a pretty old amendment, but last fall, the Planning Commission expressed a desire to have more notification for special land uses, public or PUDs, plan unit developments, et cetera, and other rezonings. So all these actions require a public hearing. The state law says that public hearings, we have to notify everyone within 300 feet of the subject property at least 15 days ahead of time, and it has to be posted in the Clarkston News, which is our newspaper of record. And it's regardless, our notifications are regardless of municipal boundaries, so it could go into Springfield, the village, or so forth. So what this amendment does is it requires an applicant to install a sign at least 15 days ahead, just like the normal state requirements. They have to post a sign on the property. It's got to meet our temporary sign ordinance, which is 16 square feet, 4 feet in height. But it's got to be a sign that basically displays that this property is subject to rezoning, or whatever it may be, a special land use. This is really just and this would be installed by the applicant at their expense. We would go out and just inspect it, make sure it's safe, it's in the proper location, it's safe and visible. If it's on a corner lot, they have to have an additional sign. But this will all be, laid out in our application process, and that's basically it. But again, it's just to add more notification for people as they drive down the road. They may not even, read the paper or even get a postcard. They may be 500 feet away and end up getting finding out through a sign. So the sign, I gave a sample sign in the packet. It's really just a QR code to the agendas, minutes, and packets to get right to the proper spot to read the packet. So we're trying to get it as much visibility as possible.
Okay. Any public comments? Any public comments online? Nope. All right, close public comments on this. Board? Yes, trustee Morocco?
As the liaison of the planning commission, I just want to say that we've been talking about for years and years to get this done so we can give the residents a lot more notice of what's happening around them. If you don't catch the little tiny clip in the newspaper, it's kind of hard to know what's happening. So this now is going to make it possible for everybody in the township to know that something's being proposed and give you a couple weeks to plan to come and look into it or check the QR code. So that's a huge transparency issue that we've been trying to fix. Brian, I just had a couple questions. I thought that we were going to make the signs and then have, they would pay a fee for us to install them, or are they going to make the sign to our standards and then they put them up, each applicant separately, so that the QR code information can be modified each time?
Yeah, so while the QR code is a standard QR code to just take you to the planning commission agendas and
Okay.
packets, that subcategory in our minutes on demand, or documents on demand, so.
So that won't change?
No, that's
Okay.
not, and if, typically what I did today, I was speaking with a potential applicant, I sent them the QR code. So they'll have it and they can get it to their sign company, and I even gave them the spec of the sign, so, as an example.
So they're going to be paying to have the signs made and installed?
Yes, yep.
Okay, and then what happens with, these signs are generic, right?
Pretty much, yeah, they are. They're very generic, yes.
So what happens with the signs when they're done with them? Are they going to
They have to
possibly
remove it.
donate them to us to use, for something for
Well,
our initiated rezonings that we want to do,
Well,
or
yeah,
it's up to the petitioner, I suppose? But
It is,
it'll be
yeah.
on their expense to do that as part of the rezoning request?
Correct, yeah, and
Okay.
obviously if it's a township initiated one, we'll have to make our own signs.
Right.
But for applicants, it's at their expense, which is, we checked with other communities, that's pretty standard.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Treasurer Brown?
I really like this. To me, for me, just the idea that somebody might come to a meeting or come in after the fact when something's already been approved and said, I really wish I would have known about it. And not that that would have necessarily changed what my opinion might be, but I think having the chance to let people have their voices heard before the fact is important. And even if it's only a few people, they're residents too. So it doesn't put anything on us, and it really ensures we get a little bit better transparency so that everyone has a chance to weigh in on things that are happening. So I don't like changing zoning, but if we're going to, I think that's important.
Okay. Anyone else? Nope. Okay, we'll close it. Can I get a roll call, please?
I'll make a motion.
I can make a motion, that'd be better.
All right, I'll do that first. I'll move to approve the second reading and adopt an amendment to Charter Township of Independence Ordinance Code, Chapter 50, zoning ordinance revisions to Article 3 and Section 3.09 relating to the posting of signage for all rezonings and special land uses, and direct the clerk to publish notice in a matter prescribed by law.
Second.
Although, I'm sorry, can I get a roll call, please?
Treasurer Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Hayward?
Yes.
Trustee Morocco?
Yes.
Trustee Alamothu?
Yes.
Trustee Tedder?
Yes.
Supervisor File?
Yes.
And Clerk Newbeck, yes. Motion carries.
Motion carried. All right. Thank you. Regular business number 5. It's a request for approved to purchase a 2020 Ford Transit Model 250 for the Independence Television Department. And here we have John Elke, who's the station manager, to walk us through it.
Hi, thank you all for your time today. Here requesting purchase of our production van that we currently have. It was a lease to us in 2019. It was brought to our attention that this is our last year that we would have it available for lease, and it was suggested that maybe if we're interested in exploring purchasing the van. Currently, it's under 2,000 miles for a 2020. We have taken really good care of it in the last number of years that we've used it for our productions, and we wanted to keep using it. Looking at purchasing a new van for that price, I believe right now annually we're paying a little over $8,000 for this lease. New van roughly would be in the $24,000 to $34,000 for a similar van like this. So it's a good financial situation to be in, and I think a wise one for us to pursue. And so that's what I'm here to do, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the van and our uses.
Any comments from the public?
How much you paying?
If you want to address it, please come up. And
Well, I don't, okay.
yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, buy all the leases.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
that's what he's talking about.
$8,300.
$8,300?
Yeah.
You're supposed to come up here and say that.
Name and address.
My name's Bill Zwiggy, but for what he said there, that sounds good. I was just saying, if you're leasing something, if something's good a miles, I said what you're paying us, that wouldn't even be an issue to me.
Okay. Can I get your address too, please?
6819 Bluegrass.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good price.
Any other comments? Any comments online? Okay, closed public comments. Can I get a roll call, please?
Trustee
That's- I'm
I'll make
sorry,
a
it's a simple-
motion.
Yes,
there we
why did I
go.
keep forgetting the motion?
I'll move to approve the purchase of the 2024 Transit Model 250 cargo van for $8,313 from Enterprise Fleet Management for Independence Television use, and direct the supervisor to sign the necessary documents as the authorized representative of the township to complete the purchase.
Second.
I just want a quick clarification. I think he said 2024. It's a 2020 transit van that we have.
Oh, let me see if that was,
You just misstated it.
It does say 2020.
oh,
on the
okay.
point.
My
Sorry.
apologies, 2020, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
It's a roll call,
Oh, it's as simple as it is.
isn't it? Okay, all right, I'll stay with that.
All those opposed? Nope, all right. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Regular item number 6, and that is the request to accept a proposal for the M15 lift station generator purchase and replacement. To walk us through this is the DPW Director, David McKee.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight before you is a request to accept a proposal for the generator replacement for our M15 pump station. Just a quick background, that station is our largest pump station. It pumps over 650,000 gallons a day. The emergency generator that we had in there, for lack of a better term, the engine just kind of decided it was done. So the repairs to that exceeded the cost. It just really wasn't making feasible to get that engine repaired. So we did go out for bid. We did have that budgeted in this year's budget. We went out on BidNet. We put the spec together. We did get a spec together. We went out for budget and, I'm sorry, we went out for bid, and the bids came back, and we did receive 5 quotes. And after reviewing them, the low bid was Corby Energy Services, and we did vet them out with several different communities in southeast Michigan and on the west side of the state. And they were just glowing results. They were just so happy with them, very, very happy with them. So in the board packet, there is a letter of recommendation from our engineering firm who evaluated them as well, and they recommended that we would go with Corby Energy Services as well. I do want to just let you know, I apologize for not putting the generator spec in the bid package for you, but it saved you 45 pages of reading, but I do have it right here. It is a large generator. It's a 250 kW generator. It is diesel. We opted to stick with diesel and go with natural gas because the cost was skyrocketed to try to get a gas line from M15 down that little hill into the station there. So we just stayed with the diesel option on that. Also in the MAPE tonight for you is a proposal from DLZ Engineering to do the construction engineering services for the installation of this, because it's very important that what we spec'd out gets installed, it is installed correctly, and then when they turn the keys over to us, that everything is connected correctly and wired up correctly and done to specifications.
Okay. Any public comments? No. Online, any public comments? All right, public comments closed for this. Board? Treasurer Brown?
How old is the backup unit we've been using? When did we buy that?
That's a new one that we purchased a little over a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
That's the one that we have now. We bought a new portable generator because the one we had was 1964.
Yep.
And I can relate to that here. Anybody?
I
But,
just- I think it really shows the planning on your department's part, that we went ahead and got a unit that can get in there and cover these when they fail, because it's a bad thing when they fail, and so
Yeah.
that's serving its purpose. And
yeah, that's
Good job.
exactly, and it was a collaborative effort with everybody, it really was, because when we did get the portable one, we wanted to make sure that we got one unit that we can run probably 90% of everything this township has, including buildings, with that one. But since this happened, we have that permanently installed there, because we need that station. We cannot have that station go down. If power goes out, we need to have we have a small window to get some power back in there, so that's why we kind of temporarily have that one there. So we'd like to get that back, so we have that available for other things.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? No? Okay, comments closed. All right, can I get a motion, please, for the purchase of the generator?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal received from Corby Energy Services of Bellevue, Michigan, for professional services associated with the purchase and installation of the emergency standby generator for the M15 lift station, as outlined in the contract, for $169,750, and a contingency amount of $13,580, or 8%, subject to receiving prior written authorization from the supervisor before incurring any related contingency expenses, for a total not to exceed amount of $183,330, and direct the supervisor to sign the agreement as the authorized representative of the township.
Support.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, for the professional services to be offered by DLZ?
I'll move to accept the proposal received from DLZ Michigan of Waterford, Michigan, for professional services associated with construction administration and inspection services for the M15 generator replacement project, as outlined in the agreement, in the amount not to exceed $7,500, and direct the supervisor to sign the proposal as the authorized representative of the township.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Yes, Paul?
What happens with the unit that's being pulled out?
We'll pull that out, and then we'll go through the asset disposal policy the township has and put it up for sale. Somebody
Do
could-
we want to just throw in a motion right here to do that and have it done?
That's a sterling idea.
So
Outstanding.
I'll make a motion to authorize the disposal of a 2012 generator is being removed from the M15 pump station and dispose of per the township's asset disposal policy.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Outstanding. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good catch. All right, regular business number 7, and that is to a request to accept the proposal and approve the agreement for the assessment administrative service, or AAS, for the assessing service for the department here in Independence Township. I think before we get into this one, I would like to get a little bit more of a backstory on this and how we got to where we're at, so people can have proper context. Back in February, when I started looking through all the different departments and looking at the different services they're offering and their cost structure and all that, it came to my attention that the assessing in-house, while it was doing a fantastic job, it turned out that the cost of it was roughly about $700,000, and the previous director let me know that we can outsource it to the county if it was an option, for about $240, I think it was at the time. That's an old number, it's not valid right now. So one of the things that it started to make me look at and start wondering is, why is there such a gap between the two numbers? So through some time spent with her and their department, we kind of came down to 3 options. One was to take a look and say, well, if we're that far of a gap, I know we had some succession planning in there, and that was part of the reason why it was a little bit higher than probably it normally would have been on a day-to-day basis. But it was still pretty significant. So we talked about either increasing revenue, which means going out and offering services to other municipalities, because we had excess capacity in our department, which then could have helped offset some of that cost. The second option was to go through and take a look and see if it made sense to make a staff reduction to right-size it for the tasks that the assessing department was performing. The third option was to completely outsource it. So going through that, and as we were talking through it and everything else, the county decided that it was going to change its rates. So starting somewhere in March, April, they started alluding to the fact that the assessing, which of the 58 municipalities in Oakland County, 32 of them or 34 of them contracted through the county. The county came out, just like they did with the police contract, gave a relatively short window to start alluding to the fact that they were going to be jumping up those rates significantly. It took until, I believe it was sometime in May, that they came out and the Board of Commissioners voted and everything else, that they increased the rate of the contracts from anywhere from 50 to 120% increase over what the municipalities were paying up to that point in time. So for the renewal. Obviously, with that type of an increase, given the fact that a lot of these municipalities who were contracting police services, and that already left a bad taste, it opened the door for some opportunities. It was at that time that we, as in the department here in assessing, looked at the opportunity of going out and trying to get some other services or other municipalities to help offset that cost. So one of them was Springfield. As an example, we approved that last month. It was I think it was $8,000. So if we're spending $700, we got 108 coming in. We're not increasing our costs. That means now our operating costs are roughly $600,000 instead of $7,000. So that was trying to bring that cost down. Best laid plans of mice and men, that as we went through the private, there's a couple big private assessing companies out there that have been doing this for years, AAS, WCA, and they went out and went aggressively after the county's business. So those 34 that got the price increase, they went out, and like I said, most of the municipalities were unhappy with the county anyways because of the police contracts. So they went out and started bidding on the contracts as well. So of the 34, I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of around 17 or 18 of the people that were at the county left and ended up going with one of the private companies. Obviously, when that happens, they're ramping up their businesses. They're looking for new help. And so through that process, they came to our assessing because we were one of 12 of the 58 that had an in-house assessing department. And so with that, they came here and they offered our assessing people some pretty good packages, respectfully. And given the fact that we're government, we can't really compete against the private sector, even though I did offer free rounds of golf at Oakhurst to try to entice them to stay. They ultimately did what they probably should have done, is they looked out for their family first and foremost, and they ended up going. This left us in the township in a risk position where now we had an assessing department where 3 of the 4 assessing individuals had left. It was because of that that we went through, and I went through, and started taking a look and saying, okay, with this fact that we don't have the ability to probably go find them because they've already been out there looking at the private, the companies have already been going out there and hiring them, it came to pretty self-evident that the best option probably was to just go with the contracting services. That contracting service, I talked to them and I talked to Springfield because they did end up signing a contract with them. I was able to negotiate a rate for both us and Springfield because I felt obligated because we had that contract relationship with them. And it turned out that our assessing department will now go from, if approved here tonight, will go from a $700,000 budget to a $260,000. So over the next 3 years, we would end up saving $1.2 million as the township. The other nice thing about it is that with this, the assessing team we had here is still going to be reassigned back to the township with the company that we're going with. if we elect to move forward on this approach. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of a thing. It really kind of was more stemmed from the county and what they did by jacking up the rates so high that created an opportunity, and through their, like I said, best laid plans of mice and men, we ended up in a situation where we had some great people on our staff, and the private sector saw it, and they wanted them. Okay? So tonight, the thing is to go through and do that. Before I open it to public comment, I received 2 letters, so I want to go through and read both of these into the record. The first one is to Independence Township Board. It's from Kim Figley, dated June 24, 2025. The subject of the matter is concerns regarding outsourcing assessing services. The letter goes, "Good evening, board members. In response to questions from concerned residents, I feel compelled to share my professional insight before the Board of Trustees considers a monumental decision outsourcing the assessing department. The assessing department serves as the gatekeeper for a majority of the township's revenue. It functions not only as the financial backbone of the municipality, but also as a critical partner to planning, building, legal, and financial operations. Assessing ensures statutory compliance, maintains equity and uniformity across the tax roll, supports other directors in millage matters, and routinely addresses issues such as non-permitted construction, legal descriptions, grants, coordination, and daily inquiries from property owners, developers, and businesses. With respect, I offer the following for your consideration, especially after the Michigan Assessment Information Form, MAIF, was shared with me by concerned township taxpayers." She has a list of bullet points here. First bullet point, over the past 8 years, the assessing department operational costs have never been deemed unsustainable, nor were they previously flagged as a concern. Second bullet point, while Mr. File met extensively with other departments to understand their functions and budgets, the assessing department was not afforded the same opportunity. At no point during my tenure did we discuss the department's statutory obligations or financial details from November 24th, 2024 through April of 2025. Next bullet point. At one point, an elected official advocated for a significant pay increase for an employee, reportedly out of concern for employee retention, without consulting me as the department director or possessing any knowledge of performance, thus escalating budgetary costs. Next bullet point. Mr. File later told me that the department was too expensive and asked if we could absorb work from neighboring communities to offset costs, specifically citing Springfield Township and the city of the village of Clarkston. I responded affirmatively, believing we could assist smaller jurisdictions. Next bullet point. I was later informed that public relations had been directed to prepare a proposal for Commerce Township, followed by a request for a bid to service Orion Township, both significantly larger, with complex TIF districts and substantial commercial growth. When I raised concerns about feasibility and capacity, I was told we just need to get everyone on board this first year, Elabet, an audit year. Emails and texts began going ignored, and requests for legal support and property tax matters received no follow-up, nor was I supported in managing a long-standing internal personal issue. Mr. File, next bullet point, Mr. File often said that everyone is replaceable and suggests I belong in nonprofit work. Despite my dedication to the role and the team, this repeated messaging influenced my decision to return to the private sector. Next bullet point. A basic question remained unanswered in the MAIF. Why was the director role never posted in the Michigan Assessors Association? Was there a board discussion about the pros and cons of outsourcing, such as a core essential government service? Unfortunately, due to the complexity of this profession, elected officials often lead without the proper education and respect for the responsibilities that must be upheld. Assessing education is often bypassed due to the complexities of appraising, exemptions, audits, statutes, special assessments, tax increments, financing districts, statistical analysis, fairness, uniform application of the law from the lowest income residents to the largest taxpayers. To do this to the best of your ability, intimate knowledge and investments in the community is needed, or you hire out, thus reducing service and claim to save money. It's long. We built a knowledgeable investment team that provided individual service to taxpayers, including developers, struggling business owners, veterans, and those seeking hardship exemptions. Our institutional knowledge extended across land use history, compliance monitoring, and developing trends, expertise that is not easily replaced. Having worked in both contracted and in-house assessing environments, I can say with confidence, municipals' dedicated staff offer more responsive, higher quality service, often 50 to 75% greater in scope and consistency. Contracted firms often rotate staff, face limited oversight, and lack the long-term accountability ensures community legal compliance, revenue growth through diligent follow-up. In closing, I believe outsourcing assessment services would be a short-term financial decision with long-term consequences. The residents of Independence Township deserve dedicated public service, not interchangeable contracts with profit-driven motives. Though I now reside just outside the township, I have called this community home since 1975, and I care deeply about its success and integrity. Public service should always be centered on service to the residents, to the law, and to long-term good. As I shared with Mr. Fowle, I have the utmost respect for his business skill sets. However, the transition to a nonprofit government service industry is not an easy one, and it requires resilience on the seasoned staff, plus global teamwork within Township Hall. We respond and provide, we do not manufacture. We do sell services that has attracted people to our beautiful community. This particular service impacts household budgets and escrow accounts. Taxpayers deserve accuracy and fairness. Your taxpayers deserve the level of service that they are paying for, along with dedication to protecting an accurate, fair revenue stream for all taxing authorities, not just for today, but for years to come when the growth slows and fund balances are especially needed to maintain our Norman Rockwell community. With deepest respect for all who serve, Kimberly D. Figley. Okay. The other letter I received is from Jamie Dupree, sent Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at 12:26 p.m. It was to me, CC to Rick Davis, Springfield Township Supervisor, and Sean Miller, a Springfield Township employee, assessing service. Good afternoon, Chuck. I would like to thank you and the entire Independence Township Board for the continued partnership of our communities. When Oakland County made the decision to change their contract rates in what appears to be an effort to discontinue providing equalization service to the 30-plus communities that have been contracting with them, it left our community with a tough decision to make in a very short period of time. I've been in the treasurer in Springfield Township for over 22 years, and I've always been appreciative to your township board for allowing us to partner with you on items we would not be able to do on our own. We met with you and your assessing department on May 1st to discuss contracting with your township for our assessing needs. That was my first opportunity to meet you in person. After we met, I felt very confident that our continued partnership and shared needs were going to continue and flourish under your direction. We had reviewed other proposals. It was between Independence Township and Assessment Administrative Service, AAS. The biggest deciding factor for me was your interim assessor, Greg Babb. His demeanor, along with his skills and abilities, are clearly unmatched. When you informed us that he had accepted a job with AAS, I was not surprised they would want him on staff. I recognize that you have a major change happening in your community. But to your credit, you made sure that your neighbors were not left behind despite what you are now handling. I am beyond grateful, and it is a true testament to your leadership ability. It is easy to be nice and get along when things are going well, but my experience has always been that when things go differently than planned, that's when you see someone's true character. The residents of Independence has an amazing group of dedicated people working for them, and it truly shows. We held a special board meeting at 11 a.m. today, this is going back to June 18th, to approve a new assessing contract with AAS LLC. And I would like to express my board's sincere gratitude to both you and Greg Babb. We recognize that you are now in the process of changing your assessment operations, but you made sure to honor our commitment to us when in all honesty, you could have left us to fend for ourselves. Thank you, and we look forward to continued successful relationships between our communities. Yours truly, Jamie. Okay. Give me a second here. At this point in time, I would like to open it up to public comments. Again, remember, please, that you come up, say your name, and you have 5 minutes, and the board does not respond. With that being said, does anybody want to come forward? Yes, please.
My name is Hannah Jackson. I live at 6795 Linger Drive. I am both a resident of this township and a Michigan Advanced Assessing Officer. I am speaking tonight to express my concern regarding the proposed transition from in-house assessing to a private for-profit company that is based outside of our community and county. A decision of this magnitude, one that affects both the quality of service and the allocation of local jobs, deserves very careful consideration and should not be made in haste. The company under consideration, AAS, which is based in Macomb County, has recently taken on roughly 100,000 new parcels across multiple municipalities. At these types of companies, assessors often receive profit-sharing incentives for taking on additional communities, which creates an understandable motivation to expand quickly. While I'm not calling into question the ability of any of these professionals, as I know some of them personally, there are valid concerns about how a company of this size will logistically handle taking on such a large workload in a very short amount of time. I believe it would be wise for the community to allow time for the dust to settle and reassess whether they are truly in a position to meet the specific needs of our township. The work of assessing can be complex and is not easily evaluated by taxpayers or even local officials. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that is not visible to most, which makes it hard to distinguish between good assessing and great assessing until a problem arises. Independence Township is in a unique and fortunate position. Unlike the other communities that found themselves with limited options this year after their budgets had already been set, the township still has a choice. We were able to maintain our budget for in-house assessing services, as was discussed at last month's meeting, which grants the ability to make a deliberate and well-thought-out decision about the future of our assessing services. The township still has the ability to take the time to make this decision. While a decision to privatize may result in savings for the township, please remember that we walk a very fine line when a governmental responsibility as foundational and essential as assessing is viewed through the lens of business and profit. Government is not only about fiscal responsibility, it is about providing high-quality, reliable services delivered by dedicated professionals who understand the unique needs of the community. Our mission is not to generate profit, it is to serve the public with excellence, transparency, and long-term accountability. As an assessor and a government employee myself, I have seen firsthand how approaching assessing from a standpoint focused primarily on business negatively affects communities and the dedicated assessors who take great pride in serving our local communities. This is an opportunity to make a decision that supports quality service, local accountability, and the best interests of our township. I urge the board to take a step back and thoroughly weigh the long-term implications of eliminating in-house assessing and outsourcing our jobs to another county. Please consider whether this decision truly serves the best interest of this community beyond the immediate financial implications. With that, I would like to pose a final question, rhetorical of course, to you as trustees of Independence Township. Will you be able to ensure that we, the residents and community, will receive the same level of dedicated services and attention that we are accustomed to if you choose to privatize the service? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to?
Yes, Joette Kuntz, 974 Reese Road, Clarkston. A couple of things I'd like to share. Our supervisor, you, Mr. File, are the chief assessor of our township. The statute is 41.61 of the revised statute. Two supervisors ago, Mr. Kittle actually did take the assessing course, and I would hope that either you did or maybe you will. But it does say you are the chief assessor. So there's a couple of things. I come from an educational background. There's business and there's public service. Education is public service, very much like the township. If you think about the schools, we have contracted out the janitorial service, the transportation service, the food service, and even substitute teachers. But we have bought our buses back and hired our drivers back. We have hired our janitorial staff back at a great cost to the taxpayers when we make a mistake. And I'm talking about Clarkston Community Schools. So contracting out is a really important situation, and you have to put a lot of thought into it. And I'm not sure that's exactly what's happened, because you've kind of been bouncing around in other ways, trying to make revenue to costs. The Office of Management Budget from the Mackinac Center, there's a cost. When you contract out, there's a cost of about 25% just taking care of that contracting. So whatever the savings is, add 25% to that. That's by Dr. Lawrence Mark, How to Compare Costs Between In-House and Contracted Services. And so you've got those kind of things to deal with. I think local accountability, we just saw contracting out garbage service in Waterford, and that didn't go well. So I would hope that you would take some time, not come to a rash vote, and think about what all the ramifications are. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the audience? Yep.
I know you guys are looking at me to come up. You probably saw the text that was going around. My name's Sandra Rahman, 9308 Oakmont Drive, Clarkston. Personally, I'm with the two ladies on outsourcing our in-sources, that we have fully qualified neighbors that are in our community that have been doing the work. And with that said, all this outsourced contracting is affecting the reason why I purchased my home in Independence Township, because it's a small community-run organization. And all this outsourcing is a part of development and smart city development that you are engaging with Lake Orion, with Oxford, with, maybe you have an inside deal with Springfield Township that's going on right now, I don't know. But ever since the election, with the little bus that you guys had with the voting election and recruiting, Oakhurst people to run Independence Township, maybe this is some we should be watching with what's going on right now with our assessments. I've challenged my assessments on my property, and I've had no problem and wonderful results getting my assessment to a reasonable cost for our taxpayer money, in addition to what you're doing now with this Macomb County and a large company trying to take care of our small town. I think it's really uncalled for. And I'd like to see the numbers that you mentioned in your statement regarding text that's going around, because you referred to everything on that text for what your reply was before we started here. With that said, nobody knows what we're talking about. I could read you the text. I probably have 5 minutes, but you've been definitely trying to backfire or backwalk your mistakes, and I think Kim should be rehired with a raise, and I think she should have her job back and be our assessor, and I think you should consider that highly instead of going outsourcing our assessing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wait, hold on one second, please. She was walking from the back, so.
Good evening, Belinda Billings, 6025 Cedar Bend Drive. I would just say that I'm not in favor of outsourcing assessing. I can see how the cost savings benefit is attractive, and I was kind of surprised to hear that $700,000 was our budget for the assessing. That seems like a lot, so maybe we had too many people, I don't know. But I do also believe that Kim has a wealth of knowledge. She was here for a long time. If it's possible that she could be rehired, I would be supportive of that.
Thank you. Next.
Mike Betzer, 6875 Bluegrass Drive. And I don't have any specific expertise in the assessing field, And I'm very pleased with the quality of services that we do receive from township staff, and I like the community. But I have worked in several government agencies that have had to outsource over the years. And I understand the need to want to attach to locality, but I think the reality, and not all outsourcings work, that's true, but nothing works always. But I think there's a tremendous amount of advantage in considering outsourcing. Larger entities, they can bring in greater expertise and economies of scale that just cannot be delivered by small staffs in small communities where the recruitment and resources are more limited. And I think over time, it's going to be increasingly important for communities like Independence Township, and particularly the township or the city of Clarkston, because the reality is that the current model of governing is not cost sustainable. It's just not cost sustainable. And increasingly, we are going to have to start looking outside for economies of scale and greater expertise to manage things that for the years in our Norman Rockwell model, we wanted to have done locally. But I think 10 and 15 years from now, people will find that we can have government. I think personally that places like the city of Clarkston may not exist in 15 years because if you look at their numbers, their financials, their current model is just not sustainable. So I don't want to take anyone's jobs away, locally, but the reality is these monies still do stay in the general community if you outsource. And I think we should be open to looking to these opportunities that will help sustain the community, not just now, but for our children and our futures. That's all I have to say, but I have no expertise in assessing. So.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Any comments?
Oh, I'm online. This
Yep.
is Tasha Shurgan. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Tasha Shurgan, 9393 Thornhill Drive. I am just going to emphasize what others had said, my concerns about it. It's a shame that Kim resigned because it seems like she really did represent our assessing department and took good care of the township. I do have concerns over the quality of the work and long-term effects. You did mention the price savings, which always seems great up front, but what is the true cost of this transition? And so, again, just like the other residents said, we really need to take more time and to make a good decision, not just for right now, but going forward for our township. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else online? Okay, I'm going to close public comments on this and bring it to the board. Treasurer Brown.
Might as well jump right in. Saving money to me, it doesn't play at all into this kind of decision. Because the last thing I would ever want to do is outsource township employees' jobs. But I don't feel like we're doing it. I feel like it's being done to us. And the timing of it is a pretty critical point. The top two people in our assessing department who were here have resigned, and their last day is tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. And given what's happening in the county right now with 17 communities who, not one of them who left the county, brought it back in-house. They've gone to these private services. The private services are going to hire everybody they can who are the high-quality people. They've taken our two people. Now, we're fortunate that those two people are still going to be here doing this work. That plays an important role for me. But let's assume for a minute that we said we're just going to keep it here. We've got to start a process now to go hire, post a job, interview people, and we're talking about two for sure, if not more, that we have to hire. That's not going to happen quickly. As you said, when you're trying to bring people back in, you got to make sure you get the right people. What are we doing in the meantime? Tax bills are going out in 7 days. The work's still got to be done that has to be done, and we'd be left with very few people to try and handle the stuff that's done by a team of 4, with the top 2 people in the department gone. And so, to me, the last thing I would ever want to do, excuse me?
I'm sorry, we just had an immediate.
Okay.
Okay, I just didn't want someone to interrupt me from speaking. I didn't interrupt anyone. I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
I've lived here for 50-plus years, and I would never want to outsource things. And again, I don't think we did. I think we got outsourced. It doesn't mean that can't change in the future. Right now, it appears we're going to have 2 people who already worked here still doing that work. And so I think that we need to look at this simply because of the timing, and not because of how much money we're going to save. I don't think that's the most important thing at all. I'm not really considering that. But we have to do something, and we can't wait, because this thing's been done. In all 17 communities, again, they've gone with the private, and they're taking the best people out there. So if we did go to try and hire people right now, I don't know what our success is going to be at getting the best people, because it's hard for them to turn down the kind of money that's being offered. So I don't see a better option right now. And that's where I'm at.
Okay. Trustee Hayward.
I've thought about this for a long time, and I can tell you that my experience with dealing with contractors, when you contract out something from in-house, you don't get the same quality of service. You just don't. You get better service because people are invested in what they're doing. They have ownership of it because they actually work for the township, or most times they live in the township. And to say something that, well, they've hired the best from here and everything else, well, I was told a long time ago, people don't work for money. They don't work for free either. And there are people that will chase money because they, for whatever the reasons may be. They need financial, they need to do better. If that were the case, then I guess everybody here would leave for public sector jobs, and we wouldn't have anybody here if it was a case of better people. So we can't say that we don't have good people already here. And if it was just money, they would all be gone. But it's not. People are here because they want to be part of something, they want to give back. It was alluded to about, like, teachers. I have a daughter who's a teacher. Sure, she could make more money doing other things, but she enjoys teaching. She likes giving back to the community. And I think that's why the majority of the people that we have in this township are here now because of that. My question is, I have a couple of questions. Are the 2 people that left, are they going to be here full-time? Are they going to be 40 hours a week?
They are, the AAS is going to put them here, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be
Are
working.
they going to be here 40 hours a week?
Do they need to be? I don't know.
I don't know. I know what the level of service that we had last time, because we went through SADs through 3 communities or 3 neighborhoods that we just did road work on. And I know that the head assessor, well, I'll just say Kim, basically, when she was here, she went way above and beyond. She was here on weekends. She attended meetings. She did a lot of things outside of her, what I would say, her normal 40-hour work week. And I want to know that we're going to get that same level of service from a contractor. And my experience is that you don't do that. And typically, like it was also stated, is that you end up going back and not having, or you got to get rid of the contractor and go back in-house because they do a better job. I've seen it in my company all the time, 30 years. I've seen it in other situations in my industry. Same thing. They outsourced to maintain a complete network, and it failed because the people just aren't as invested as they would be when they're direct hires. Unfortunately, we didn't have an opportunity to look at this, like Paul alluded to. It was a big emergency. I wish we would have had a special meeting maybe sooner when we found out that we had a couple people being poached. And my other questions are, where are the, we had 4 people in the assessing department. Where are the other 2 going? Or we had 5 people.
So of the other 2, they are union. They're making a horizontal slide over to the building department. I met with the union, the president of the union, and 2 of the stewards yesterday, and came to agreement, yep, they're fine with them making that move over. And so they were protected, and that was an important part of this.
Okay. And another thing is, I just don't like being hurried into sign a contract at the last minute based on the situation. I wish we could have probably met about this before they have, what, 1 day left before they're leaving now. Of course, there's not much we can do about that. And my question is also then, what if we don't do anything? We have to go hire somebody. Is the assessing department going to fall apart? what would happen if, instead of these people quitting, they got in a car accident? What kind of time do we have from the state to replace them? Do they have to be replaced immediately?
Well, they have to be able to sign the roll and everything else, so, I mean, which has already been in motion. There is, I don't know, maybe we can ask, AAS is here, so they can maybe answer some questions, these specific ones.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Mitchell Elrod with AAS, here to answer any questions the board may have. We're excited to give this proposal to you guys. Like I said, any questions you may have, happy to answer.
So my question are the two people that you guys took, are they going to be here 40 hours a week?
The plan is they're going to be split between here and Springfield, but when we met with Springfield, there's really no need for them to go there much during the week. So if I would have to guess right now, they would spend the majority of their time here at Independence.
But not 40 hours a week both, obviously.
Well,
based on a contract that we're signing.
We're going to be covering 4 business days here at the township. So AAS employees will be here 40 hours a week.
Right, how many does that equal? Like, how many are you talking about? How many people, how many people am I getting for 40 hours a week?
It would probably depend on the needs of the township. If you currently have 4, that's most likely a doable number. I will probably, me and my boss will be working with Greg and Janae to see what the needs are of the department, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Okay?
For him.
I have a question for him.
Time, public comments is closed. Any questions down here?
I mean, go ahead, ask him a question.
Trustee Tedder?
Yeah, well, I am glad that the AAS is here because I think it's important to hear direct answers, because what I'm hearing verbally is a staunch departure from what I read in the contract, and that there would be one, and I don't have it in front of me, but certainly would be 4 employees. If we're comparing apples to apples, it wouldn't be 4 employees, and that they would either be here or they would be remote performing, it sounded like an assessment administrative type function. But in aggregate, they would be providing assessing services and doing all the statutory requirements expected and required of a township. And I'm kind of in the same boat. I feel like this all kind of, I may or may not have known about any of this anonymous email we received, and text communication that followed was like, call me if you got questions, and I was really taken aback by that piece. So it's really, we're now talking, it's the 24th of June, there's been 5 weeks between meetings, and at the very least, I believe that it's a rash decision to make any decision tonight. But I'm also of the opinion that a township of 37,000 residents who has a sophisticated and educated residential base here, people that are engaged, deserve top-notch services. And I don't see, based on what I read in the contract, I mean, words may or may not matter, but they don't matter as much as the contract. And so when I look at this, we've got 3 statutory functions as a township. We have assessing, we have administration of elections, and we have collection of taxes. And I wouldn't, in a minute, consider making, like a lot of other townships, our clerk, our treasurer, and any other departments part-time. Because again, our township residents have come to expect a certain level of service. Deferring to the $700,000, when Kim left, and I don't know her salary, but I'm gonna assume wages and benefits was probably about $150,000. My understanding was really based on my conversations with Supervisor File, that there weren't there wasn't really a need to fill that because in his assessment as a supervisor, he felt that we were perhaps maybe 40% top heavy. And so there was an argument perhaps to lean out, whether through attrition or otherwise, to lean out the assessing team, which again is relevant because we were saying 700,000, but the number might be closer to 400,000 versus nearly 300,000 we'd be paying AAS. And so if you're asking me for $100,000 or $150,000 difference, is it worth losing our in-house assessing team, who over time, regardless of who's been at the helm, has performed extremely well for our residents and by our residents. And by the way, assessing is only as good as the assessors. It's relevant to the resale value of our homes. There's a cascading effect, and even just getting 1 year wrong, and it can create detrimental effects for our township. The other thing that's not being addressed relative to cost is we're not completely getting rid of the financial piece relative to our assessing team. We're taking the 2 remaining unionized assessors and we're shifting them to other departments that we may or may not need. We're absorbing the cost, so that's got to be at least a couple $100,000 in just shifting that burden from assessing to elsewhere. As in aggregate, the township still has that cost to bear. So that's another thing that I think needs to be mentioned and is being misrepresented. Another thing, Michigan Township Association, I think it was a 2019 article, so it's a few years old, but even back then said, hold on to your in-house assessing to the extent that you're able. And I don't personally believe, and I understand what's happened here. AAS played a chess game and at least and won our employees. And frankly, I don't know that we've gone to the extent to either consider or even try to bring on other assessors by maybe advertising in the Michigan Assessing Association, whatever the name of the association is, and to at least solicit for interest in backfilling our assessing team here. I think it's important that at the very least we give that an honest try, because I don't think money is the exclusive motivator for people working in the township. I think there's a qualitative element to working for one dedicated township. And I'll try and bring it all home here. I've got a lot of notes I just kind of took here. I'm also troubled that with the 32 municipalities that abandoned the county, AAS or whoever is taking on, I think the young lady who has street cred, and I appreciate her being here. I do not know her, but was very eloquent and articulate in her concerns, and those really resonated with me. 100,000 new parcels. What does that mean for the quality of our assessing here in Independence Township? So those are my main points. I could perhaps go on, but I'll stop there. And again, I want to reiterate that we are a township of a substantial township of 37,000 residents, a $30+ million budget, who are fiscal stewards and good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. And I believe that where appropriate and where it's valued, that our residents are willing to pay a little bit more to keep things in-house. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Sam,
I
trustee Morocco.
got a lot to say, I always do. For you, the only thing in the contract it says is, and this is what your contract says, provide office coverage during normal township business hours in person or by remote access, except for holidays, sick days, and vacations. In addition, assessing staff can be available by email or phone when needed. That's the only thing it says in the contract. Doesn't say anything about our staff, doesn't say anything about 4 days a week, doesn't say anything about anything. Now, go back to Lisa Griffin, your president's letter soliciting our work, and it says, offers coverage 4 days a week. Well, that's the same as someone can call them 4 days a week. That doesn't mean anything. That's a blank, empty statement, in my opinion. But it does say that you propose to extend full-time positions to the employees that you took from us. So that's comforting for the employees that you guys took from us to put us out of the assessing business. But that's the only thing in the contract. Now, when I looked at the Madison Heights contract that Lisa sent on May 5th for $229,000 and $229,980, she's guaranteeing them an assessment a certified employee, not an assessor, on site 1 day per week, except for vacation, sick days, and holidays. And the assessor, a certified assessor, 16 hours a month. So in Madison Heights, for less money, they're guaranteeing not too less money, but that's one person a day, one person a week, and somebody certified 16 hours a day manning the phone. So that, to believe that, and our contract doesn't have any stipulations, it's as vague as it could possibly be, which is one of my problems. I would never sign a contract like this. It doesn't say anything, except for we're gonna charge you money. And we might be there, we might not be there, who knows? Who we're gonna send, it doesn't say, So, very poorly done, which is not a good thing for me to consider using a company that puts together a contract that's so poorly written. But I wrote down my statement so that I wouldn't miss anything and I wouldn't get too harsh at the same time. So I'm gonna read it if that's okay with everybody. The township has an in-house assessing for a reason. It's the most important department in the township. There are three main services the township provides, as Jim said: assessing, tax collecting, and running elections. Assessing is the only municipal function that demands extensive education, special certifications, and regular state mandated audits for compliance with the general property tax law. The other ones, running elections, you don't have to have any, you can be elected the clerk and run elections and then get your certification. And Carrie does a great job. It has nothing to do with Carrie, but this is the most complex, certified, educated thing. This is the money revenue generator for all of us. So we had an outstanding staff that we literally went out and promoted other communities in the county as an exemplary staff producing the highest levels of assessing services in the whole county. 5 people, $700,000. One person, maybe a day, a week, 4 days a week for $260,000. So that math is not working out either. The mission statement for the township that we make a commitment to the residents says, we dedicate ourselves to providing fair and accurate assessments to educate the tax-paying public on procedures, laws, and components, to create those assessments and to offer services that honors the dignity of the public. We must always keep in mind that the citizen should exit the experience feeling satisfied with services rendered. That's our commitment to the residents. I don't believe that can be done through a company who currently is advertising that they manage 40,000 properties and now will be managing 140,000 properties at the same exact time. That is ludicrous to believe that we could be provided adequate service. The residents expect services in all departments. In my opinion, they deserve more than other communities provide. More access to staff, information, getting questions answered, and problem solved quickly through trust, with a relationship building with staff that's familiar faces, hopefully. In my opinion, this decision to gut the assessing department and outsource it is a combination of trying to save face on a bad deal, of trying to compete with the private sector that went bad, making more room for full-time officials' office staffs, and the internal conflicts with assessing staffs. I'm told the staff are already circling to get trucks and square footages from the department, and we haven't even voted on this yet. And that's an issue because the trucks, the cost, the paper clips, the paper, all of that's not included in the 260. Neither of the other employees. So there's a lot of math that is being misrepresented in my opinion. How this has been handled and shared to the trustees, is my next comment. First, I think it would be negligent for any board member to vote to have a contract signed by the supervisor that is so vague with very little details of service, rates for extras, or references to services that we already provide to the residents. The fact that board members were not consulted on the disbanding our most important department is disappointing, and a special meeting should have been called, in my opinion. When our head level 4 assessor resigned over the proposed expansion of the department by 50%, the whole deal on doing other municipality assessment, in my opinion, should have been shut down, and we should have reevaluated the situation. We had 3 choices to make: deal with, outsource it, adjust payroll, or take on more work. We tried to take on more work. That didn't work. When the head assessor failed, that did work. When the head assessor failed, I believe, with 150,000, let's just say it's 100,000+, that automatically kind of went to item number 2, which was adjust salary. So in my opinion, we should have stopped and had a conversation at that point. Hey, we just knocked off, over 20% or more of the cost of assessing. We still have a level 4 and we still have a level 3. Let's reevaluate. We didn't do that. The MAVE stated that there were multiple options to look at, but none of the trustees had any conversations about that prior to it. I'm not aware of any qualified person or company verifying that our costs were unsustainable, like the MAVE states. Who puts a value on the service of assessing, the most important department on the thing? You could do that with the salary of any of the elected officials up here, the planning department, the building department. What's the value? There was no analyzation of that. It was just, we're paying too much for assessing. It notes salary were too high, but when the highest paid employee resigned, we never discussed fixing the problem with that. The lack of information being provided to the trustees under this new administration, our job is to oversee the full-time officials and the ongoing things, whether people like it or not. It's been very disappointing. We've been kept in the dark. We didn't even know that any of this went on until we got an anonymous email from a resident. We didn't get a courtesy call. We didn't get an email that they stole our employees, that we have nobody to consign a tax roll, that we found out inadvertently. And then they were forced to let the trustees know. So I don't appreciate that. Whether it's the authority of the supervisor or other full-time elected officials, it's still necessary if the board wants our support, or supervisor wants our support, that that we work together and move on these issues, and we're brought up to speed on the things, and I thought that the lack of respect for our position in this situation was obvious. I would never vote to hire the company that stole our employees. I'm just not going to. That's absurd. I would never. I was very disappointed I would be very disappointed if the board did either. I'm also not in favor of hiring back the staff that bailed on us for more pay. I don't know if they said, hey, I'll stay if you give me another 20 grand. We don't know anything because we weren't in the loop. We have no idea what went on behind the scenes at this township hall. I wouldn't hire somebody that ran for money unless there was those discussions and we made a decision we weren't going to pay them and they made a decision for their family's best interest. But I don't have any of that data to back that up.
1 minute left.
Okay. Loyalty is paramount. We failed to follow proper FRP proposal guidelines. We made some calls out of panic to 2 firms without advertising in the Michigan Assessors Association. The trustees were kept in the dark by the full-time officials until the residents sent the email. We have 2 employees in limbo, like we talked about. The story that the board voted on the last meeting and I voted against was that we were going to take on 50% more work with 20% less people. And I thought that was unbelievable, that we could still give the residents the same service with 1 staff member available, sometimes in person or remotely. If you don't think a company is going to raise the rates, once the county raises their rates 50 to 120%, you don't think that this company, when they've got the monopoly, there's no other choices, and they've stolen every other person's employee, they're not going to raise the rates? I mean, what are we, naive? Does nobody have any business sense? This is a rabbit hole we're running down, and it's going to bite us in the ass for sure. We just had this conversation about the sheriff's department. We looked at getting our own sheriff's department because the county's choking us down on everything. They're bankrupting us. And we decided we want to have control of our own destiny. We want to have control of our own costs. We just went over this with the sheriff's department, but now we throw that all out the window with the most important department. I don't think I think I should be able to finish.
10 minutes is the rule.
Okay, well, then I'll use all my 10 right now. We just
It
had
is
this.
10. It's been 10.
Oh, well, give me
Just
5.
Please wrap it up quick.
Okay. So I clearly oppose the loss of the most important department and suggest that the savings and services that we set a special meeting to discuss all the departments, elected officials, their positions, their departments, the building department, the planning department, and review all those for reduction, if that's our goal, is to cut all costs no matter what the services, deficiency is. So if you want to talk about another municipality, Madison Heights, their deputy city manager is their clerk. Their city manager is their finance director and treasurer. How far do we want to go to cut these costs? I mean, I missed the contract agreement the first time, and this is the last bit of it about you on the contract. And that's because it was in the packet for the public to see, which is inappropriate. I don't know when this started, but it started recently, that we're showing people's contracts to the public before the board has a chance to look at them. And the problem with that is that when we went for the tax tribunal law firms, we had 3 contracts, and it wasn't enough, and we made a suggestion we wanted to put it out for bid to get more bids. Now we get one panic bid, and we show it to the public. So now how do we put it back out for bid again when you've just disclosed somebody's confidential bid? So there's something internally in the clerk's office or in this where we are showing private documents that are supposed to be in our eyes only until a decision's been made out of fairness to other bidders and other competitors to the township. And that's been violated on the last 2 things.
Okay.
So
That's it. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other comments?
I have
that's
a couple.
bullshit.
I want to hear the rest of his comments.
Go ahead.
When you silence elected officials from talking, it's for a reason.
Absolutely.
Can we,
This is a new rule, by the way.
No, it's always been we have 5 minutes, just like everybody
Terry,
else.
I've been here for 20 years, longer than you. We've never silenced an elected official from making a statement on something as important as outsourcing the thing. So if anyone on this board wants to make a motion to let me talk more, that's what you do, which I had to do on the planning commission, to let some public person speak when that chairman tried to silence somebody that opposed what they were doing.
I would like, whether it's.
okay, well, first of all, Terry had
Okay,
comment, then I'll recognize
sure,
you.
thank you, appreciate it.
Yes.
I'll let Sam finish.
Okay.
Yeah, if I just in general, we have, I appreciate the spirited discussion, I sincerely do, and I value all of you. On issues like this, I think it's important that we focus on deliberation rather than time. That's just my opinion, and thank you, Terry, for proposing that, and I would support that if it requires any board action. Thank you.
Go ahead, Sam.
Thank you. I'll make it as quick as I can. One of the things, so if we were to go down this rabbit hole and sign with you, which I'm absolutely opposed to, there's a problem with the contract retaining the office coverage. The proposal basically is promising less than minimal representation for the residents. We still cover the office, the vehicles. We had talked at our last meeting when we had an in-house that we needed our DDA reassessed because we just got a DDA going, and it's paramount for us to capture the most tax base by getting it brought up to speed now, which I'm sure you're aware of as an assessor. That's not in here, or an estimated cost of what that's gonna cost. Resale evaluations, when a house gets sold, somebody in our department, because we had 5 of them, looks it up on the internet, sees what all the things are that for sale and amenities of the house and compare it to what the assessor says. That's how we find all these finished basements and all the nice neighborhoods and 100,000, which is now is 100 grand for a basement. And that's how we find those things. That's above and beyond. That's not included in here. The commitment to a 20% review annually as requested by the state. That's not in the contract. Legal fees are offered by your service, but no dollar amount stated. There's no money in it for education. I don't know who, and education is everything to assessing, and you know that, so who's paying for that? The 2 staff members. So those are the key components of the contract that I had issues with, and then I just have a few more comments. Thank you for letting me do that. My concern, again, is that why would AAS get these rock bottom why would they keep these rock bottom prices? We're really at risk of them just doubling the prices in 3 years. That's what's gonna happen. They're taking on another 30 communities in 3 years. The prices are gonna go through the roof. And the other, what is the deliverable for the residents, other than the potential loss for future revenues? So if we save 200 grand, are the taxes going down? No. Is any benefit to the township residents for that $200,000? Not that's been presented. I see zero benefit to that. And this is the most important. The risk of releasing our people, the risk of them, they stole our people. Now, how do we know that as soon as they take over for us, that they're not gonna let our people go from their company? There's no guarantee for even to protect the people who are bailing on us. It all seems very predictable, the way that it all went down. We should have foreseen this, especially, from a lot of us that have a business background up here. Again, I would never be able to support a company that came in and gutted us and then tried to take our work away from us. And I don't believe there's anybody on this board that's qualified to make these analyses of the value to resident service, to the assessing, and the potential losses. Once you assess a property, the loss of that assessment is forever. You can only incrementally raise it by the rate. So that we have the largest commercial, $50 million of construction and a proposed to $50 million in commercial, and 300 to 500 homes proposed here in the next 5 years. The staff that they're proposing to give us will be lucky to handle just the new construction permits and phone calls, let alone all the other stuff that we do, like go to veterans' houses and help them fill out their paperwork, all the people that are exempt. I just think we're being dragged down this rabbit hole, and I can see it blowing up in our face. The county is going to start laying people off, so they're going to have employees that are going to be up for grabs if they have any good people. And I'm not sure what the volume, but at the thing, we have people that are paying $330,000 a year in taxes in this township, and they deserve a hell of a lot of service for that, in my opinion. So the future revenue of our township is in the hands of a subcontractor after we just praised how great we are. I think that we still have 2 people out of the 5 that are here. All we need is a level 3 assessor right now. We won't be at the level of a level 4 assessor for a couple of years, and I think that it would warrant taking the time to downsize our department if that's what we want to do, but keep it in-house. And I haven't seen a single deliverable from this yet. So thank you for the extra time.
Okay. Anybody else on the board?
I'm going to let him answer some of Sam's questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Any specifics? There was a lot of them. So is the office coverage the main issue?
Can I jump in just a sec?
Sure.
Go ahead. Treasurer Brown.
I'm gonna, and I know Greg is here, and I'm here every day, right? And from my office, I sit right by the front counter. I see everything that happens at the assessing counter. The assessing department doesn't spend 4 people all week in the office. They spend more time out of the office, I believe, than in the office. They're out doing their jobs. So the idea that we're trading 4 for 1 isn't really accurate, because the assessing is done in the field, not in the office. There's never more than 1 person in the assessing office after 4:30 every day. And so I would definitely have a problem if we saw people waiting at the counter and there was only 1 person to help them. That would have to be addressed. And there are certainly going to be times when we know it's going to be busier, and that'll have to be handled through the communications with the contractor. I'll also note that the contract allows it to be canceled within 30 days. For me, in the short term, we have to make sure we remain consistent with what's happening. And by doing this contract right now, which we can get out of by giving a 30-day notice, we're maintaining consistency with the people who've been doing the work. They're still going to be here, and we're going to see how it goes, along with 17 other communities who are doing the same thing. So we're not doing this unlike a lot of other places. That's all I have.
Let me ask you some questions. When you go in and do a commercial area, how many people do you bring in?
I guess it would depend on the community. Usually each community will have 1 or 2 commercial appraisers, depending on the size. We have the city of Auburn Hills as a contract right now. I believe we have 2 full-time commercial appraisals, or maybe 1 commercial and industrial appraiser working together, so like a 2-person team for that.
How many commercial assessors do you have, qualified assessors, experienced?
Out of the 30, I would say most that have been in this business, you know, for an X amount of years have a commercial experience, so a specific number, I would say more than half.
Okay. You said you have over 30 assessors?
As of the date of this contract, yes, but we are hiring more, you know, with the influx of contracts with Oakland County.
So if Greg decided to leave or Janae decided to leave, you can easily backfill that?
We would have to fulfill the contract.
Right, so there wouldn't be any downtime?
No.
Okay. What about when you go and do the assessing on the 20%? How many people, do you just send one person out? Do you send a team out? How do you do that?
In a community like this, we would probably send 1 person out in the field, or multiple people out, depending on, you know, how fast we would need to get that 20% done. If we, you know, if we want to get it done over a summer when the weather is good, we'd probably send multiple people out in the field. In the past, we've hired temporary help, summer help. We train the people, you know, come in for 4 or 5 months. You know, they go out with a licensed, or, you know, an assessor, an appraiser. We kind of teach them what to do, you know, and then they work with us for that. Not every community does that. Not every community wants it, but we have done that in the past. So, but I would say, you know, the 20% is a 1 to 2 person job, but usually 1 person can go out and do that type of reappraisal.
On the, how many level 4s do you have?
I believe 8.
8 level 4s, so it's a lot. And then how many level 3s?
That would probably be a third of the company, and then the rest would be a mix between MCAOs and MCATs.
Okay.
How many level 4 are there in the state? Do you know? How many are licensed in the state?
That's a good question, assuming that it's the hardest and top certification, not a ton, except for the bigger communities, because they require them. So I don't know the answer off the top of my head, though.
Okay. I have some questions for the attorney. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
Am I good? You want me to hang out?
You're probably good. Thank you. Did you review the contract?
Yes,
Did you make modifications to the contract?
we did. We made a couple of recommendations. This is the same contract that we've seen in, I think, 5 other communities.
Which ones would those be?
Orion, Oxford, Auburn Hills, well, yourself, and I think there's one other in there.
Oakland?
Oakland, I'm sorry, yes, Oakland, thank you.
In those contracts, did it address the issue of DDAs, CIAs, and those types of?
I don't think they did. I think it's just part of the assessing, and, you know, we might get a further explanation, but typically those kinds of services would be included in your assessing services contract.
Okay. Do you know if the other municipalities moved forward?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. I mean, I know for sure that Orion, Oxford, and I think Oakland has as well. Just can't remember if they were on the agenda.
Question.
Sure, go ahead, Sam.
How many of those have in-house assessing?
None.
Okay, so why are we talking about them? They don't have any choice.
I mean, they were,
I mean,
all
I-
of them
no,
were
I'm-
with the county, yes.
No, I understand, but I'm saying, you know, we're in a very unique situation where we're not in that. We don't need to play the game. We don't need to,
We
you
are
know.
in that situation because we don't have an assessing department anymore.
Well,
So
it's
we
not a
don't
matter-
have one.
Well, we haven't tried to hire anybody. It's been a week.
So,
We haven't tried to hire anybody. Have we tried to negotiate with Greg?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Greg doesn't want to work, doesn't want to work for us. We can't afford to pay him.
Did you push Terry out?
That's irrelevant. So none of those, all these county communities, like he just said, they only got like 15 guys that do commercial. They're taking on, they're almost triple, they're taking on, another 60%, 100% of workload, more than that. They're taking on, they got 40,000 properties now, they're taking on 100,000 properties. They don't have the staff.
We've already
to-
heard this, so let's.
He's the attorney. He
It's
can't answer
attorney,
that
so he's
question.
not.
Okay, but all right, Dan, well, my question's for you is how, I don't believe that statement that they're gonna throw in doing a whole downtown district authority assessing for the same price, because the contract just states to provide the services that are, that are necessary. That's not necessary, that's an extra. They wouldn't all have that, you know what I mean? So, there's no hourly rate for the legal, there's no hourly rate for the, there's no information in the contract other than someone's gonna be here, to answer the phones or be around 4 days a week, and maybe they're gonna be in person and maybe they're gonna be in remote. So I just wanna know how you feel, like, there's a lot of vague stuff, and we're trying to make a determination. We're gonna pay $260,000 for this, plus our employees, our trucks, our paperwork, our things. Then, when SADs wanna get done, we're gonna have to hire you and Nowak and Frous to do them, because that's gonna be an extra. The DDA is gonna be an extra.
Okay, well, that's not actually true, but okay.
Which part?
The DDA, they are covering the DDA costs.
Where does it say that in the contract?
Well, I've got it in emails and from the owners of the company, and it should be in the contract as well. If
And
not,
that-
we'll make darn sure it is.
And Sam, I, from my perspective, and this is a policy decision, so I'm not getting into the decision, but the assessing part of it is always done by your assessors. Now, SADs and interaction with residents, is that assessing work or is that something different? In my mind, that could actually be something different. So the assessing of whether applying the SAD is based upon the value of the property, then it will be done by your assessors. In short, trying to make it simple.
Yeah. Treasurer Brown.
I'm not sure I understand what the difference is with a DDA. The buildings are assessed at whatever their value is.
That's my point.
The fact that they're in a DDA, that's all calculated by our ERP system.
Right.
So by the rates that we put in through my office and the exclusion factors that are done for it. So assessing the property is assessing the property, and whether it's a DDA or a CIA, I don't see how that has any impact, because it doesn't change what they do to assess the property.
Maybe I can explain it.
Any other questions?
Well, I want to talk about Paul's point, because he made a point that it doesn't understand it. So
Yeah,
I
we've
wanna
already
see-
exhausted.
Well,
If you can make it quick, please. I want
this
you.
is like the most important decision that we'll
I know.
probably make in the township, blowing this department, because that whole story about we can always bring it back, that's ridiculous. That never worked. You guys always
Only in
say
your
that,
mind.
and it never works. We
Only
could never
in-
afford to bring it back. It's common sense. The difference with the DDA is that it hasn't been assessed recently, all the properties in the DDA, and we need to assess them immediately, since it was supposed to have been done last year. Then Greg promised us he'd do it this year when he still worked for us, because all of those properties need to be assessed at the current rate right now, because we have development going in there. So if those properties are under-assessed on the property, then our per square foot for commercial property number is too low. Then when the new companies come in, like the car wash and all these things over here on Walden Road, they're gonna be assessed at a lower square foot rate, because we haven't updated all of our lower square foot rates. That's why they say you should always assess all the parcels in a DDA as soon as it's formed, so the maximum tax capture happens when the investment comes to that district. So it's not a matter of just randomly we want to do the thing. We have a lot of money coming in, we're hoping to come into the DDA, and every penny that we get it wrong, half the money we generate is from the county, Oakland University, the Mass Transit to reinvest back in our community. So we're losing all of that money from other people and ourselves to invest back into the Dixie Highway revitalization, project on the DDA. So it is a big deal, and that's why I've been bringing it up at every one of these meetings. Now, we don't all have to understand it, because this is not our field. But being on the DDA and talking to Kim about it, having Greg say that we're gonna do it, is why I'm bringing it up. So it is an important piece of it, and I find it very hard to believe they're throwing that in.
So I have a question based on what you just said. If you said you've been asking over a year, were they overworked that they didn't get to it? I mean, to me, that just shows a little bit of not doing their work right off the bat. Second of all, I liked Kim. I thought she was good at her job, but when you were saying when we were starting the road projects and she was doing extra hours, that was a brand-new thing we were starting. So I think everybody was overworking getting that going. Now that it's in place, it's not gonna need those weekends and whatever. We've done 3 of them. There's a policy written about it. We got it going. We know how that's gonna be, and that could be trained to somebody. It's not starting from scratch anymore. So I can't say that you can't have somebody that can continue on with that. So that's just my one point to yours. As far as some of this, we all got this Friday. Did any of you bother to pick up the phone and talk to this gentleman? Because I did when this came out. We've had many conversations. He filled me in on how many meetings he's had, whatever. So to say this was just, thrown in our lap, do some homework. Make some phone calls, talk to people. I mean, it's not like this was a surprise this morning. And that's what some of your comments are, that this is just happening today.
Terry, it's all been behind the scenes back to our
Okay.
conversations. We haven't had any public discussions about
Trustee
outsourcing
Hayward.
assessing.
The only point I would make about Kim, and it had nothing to actually doing the work, it was about being here to meet with the residents when they had questions, people in the neighborhoods. That's still gonna happen. When you get a brand-new SAD, all those residents that have never dealt with it, they're gonna wanna come talk to somebody. And they're gonna wanna talk to somebody that knows the community, which was what Kim was doing. And it had nothing to do with, I'm just talking about it as a face-to-face situation. And I know I have people here that Kim worked with, and I'm not saying we need to hire back Kim, I'm just trying to express the level of service that we got from our in-house assessing, and that Kim was at meetings she didn't need to be at, but she chose to be there because she wanted to take care of the residents. That's why. And it had nothing to do with any extra work about putting together SADs. It was to be there to help the residents.
Yeah,
That's
and
all.
Greg will be here for that. All right, I think we've done, did you have a?
Yeah, I just
Trustee
want to
Taylor.
address Terry's comment. I agree with you, but the key point is Friday. This is perhaps the heaviest lift this board is going to make. It's sad one way or another if the posture is to make a decision tonight that it's so contentious. But to digest all of this and have this heavy of a vote based on limited information, which I think still remains today, I think at the very least, and I talked to Chuck yesterday, and I was still doing my homework, as I explained to him, and I shared my reluctances then, that we should, at the very least, try and preserve our in-house assessing. I think there's a value there. We're gonna be down 40% in staff. It's gonna be negligible on the financial piece. And, I think it warrants, at least giving a try, putting a post in Michigan Assessors Association, because not everyone is motivated exclusively by making 10 or 20 or 30 grand more. They like the quality and the dedication involved in working for a municipality. There's a value add there that I think we're discounting significantly.
Can I say something else to that point?
Sure.
So you're gonna put that out, but a lot of complaints about the one we had was because she was a resident here. So whether you post it or not, you might get someone who's not. Right? So I get it. I'm a resident here and I ran for this because I care. Not many people wanna sit up here either. But if you had someone from the outside taking this seat, just because they had a paycheck, it's gonna be a different story. But the job, let's say, I'm Kim, it's gonna be posted and it might not be a resident.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think
Still
that
no, I think
matters.
comparing an assessor who's a resident and one who's not, of course, the person who lives here is gonna care a little more. But I'm saying, just because you post it in MTA or a different site rather than
Yeah.
a private company,
I think you misunderstood me. I'm not suggesting they
Okay.
need to be a resident. They need to be a certified level 3
no,
assessor.
I get that, but I'm saying a lot of
Not
passion
nec-
tonight makes it sound like Kim was better because she was a resident, she cared more.
I
And
made
I'm
no,
thinking-
I
wasn't
made
a
no
resident.
mention, I made no mention of her, and I don't
Okay.
think this is a referendum on her one way or another, and I frankly wish her name wasn't brought up, because it's
Correct.
not germane to our discussion tonight. I think it behooves us as a board, and we owe it to the residents, to give consideration to maintain what just 5 weeks ago we were putting out as the most robust, competent assessing team in Oakland County, if not the state, and now we're gonna just farm it out. I just am troubled by
Minimum
that.
service, minimum service.
I just wanted to comment that 2 of the robust team from Independence Township, unfortunately, is going to AAS. But those are 2 of the top people that would still remain in the township, which we have not commented on, who do live in the township. I think that was very important to me in this decision. If we don't have the security of having Greg and Janae still be here, that was a tipping point for me versus somebody who doesn't know our community, who hasn't been working in the field, who hasn't worked together as part of that team. I observed Greg's work in another community when when the assessing was outsourced. It didn't get changed from in-house to outsourced. It was outsourced when I came. I remember talking to the prior assessor when she was looking for a replacement. I talked to her. Greg was one of the candidates that she was looking at. I was very impressed with Greg. I got to know Greg. They came in and he brought in teams. I got to know Greg. I was excited that he was a candidate to come here, and to find out that he was an employee, or he was a resident, was even a stronger impressment for me. There's been word that Greg may not have commercial experience, but I also look at the wealth of knowledge and network that this company is bringing. The Griffins, I worked with the Griffins. Actually, I will tell you that as well. I worked with Bill Griffin back at Shelby Township when he was the assessor. He had just an appraisal team, appraisal business at the time. He retired, and then he continued to grow his business. I hold him with great esteem. I mean, have you looked into the employees and the employees' backgrounds of who they've hired on their website? Have you looked into their backgrounds, their certifications? I mean, what a wealth of knowledge, where we had 4 or 5 employees here that could network amongst each other, but AAS has so many. If they don't have experience that they can call, they can rely on. I mean, I think it's worth giving it a shot. Yes, we have a cancellation option. Are things missing in the contract? Yes, possibly. Do we need to rework that? Yes, possibly. But I think those are some thoughts that you should consider.
All right, can I get a motion, please, on the request to accept the proposal and approve the agreement with the AAS?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I move to table the proposal to approve the contract for AAS services with assessing administration services until we can get a contract resolved and reevaluate what it would take to get some staff in here to keep it in-house.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Need a roll call?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, roll call.
Yeah, we definitely want a roll
Excuse
call.
me. Quick question on your motion.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for a special meeting next Tuesday then for this? What's your time frame?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that we shouldn't have I think that we need to have a board, we need to get in a closed session and talk about this. I think you guys are making a huge mistake, and you know you're making a huge mistake, but you're doing it anyway to cover everybody's, the moves that were made. So I don't like the fact that everything's done behind the scenes. I would like to table it and have a special meeting, if it's in public or not, and resolve some of the issues we have today.
Question for Treasurer Brown.
Well, we got a motion and a second. I think we need to, we have a roll call.
Yeah.
Roll call.
I want a time frame with his motion then.
That's when you have discussion after the second.
Yeah.
There's discussion.
Yeah, after the second,
Yeah.
yeah, that's when you do it.
There's discussion.
Okay.
Asked a question.
Yeah. So what was your question? Terry?
I want a time frame with his motion if he's gonna.
Yeah, table it to have a special meeting within the next 10 days. We need 72 hours notice. And reevaluate this.
Okay. Do the roll call.
I had in the paper
Do the roll call.
Trustee
Is the
Alamothu.
time- I'm sorry, is the timeline in the motion within 10 days?
Yeah.
Special, so trustee Tedder has to agree to that.
I'll second that and agree to it, yeah, that's fine.
I don't know why you made me get it there wrong.
We have our own mic.
That's my motion, to table it till we can have a special meeting within the next 10 days, not any sooner than Monday.
And you're seconding it, right? Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
support that.
Roll call, please, clerk.
Supervisor File.
No.
Clerk Newbeck, yes. Treasurer Brown.
No.
Trustee Hayward.
Yes.
Trustee Morocco.
Yes.
Trustee Alamothu. Yes. Trustee Tedder.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. All right. On to regular business number 8. Number 8 is to request to adopt resolution number 2025-021, the closure of Bluegrass Road during I-75 construction. All right, this one too needs a little bit of a backstory. As it stands right now, about a month ago, I had a conversation with the Village of Clarkson manager, John Smith, and also had Jonathan, and had on the phone MDOT and RCOC. We discussed the fact that there's 11 bridges, starting with us at the furthest south, going north, that they are doing construction on. The beginning of the conversation, which was about an hour and a half phone call, they said that the project is about a month behind due to supplies. The scheduled end date was going to be November 15th. Through there, we talked about a whole plethora of different options, like why did they not start down at our end, right? Because between us and Dixie, our M15 and Dixie, you know, those are the two heavily traveled exits in the 11 bridges that they're fixing. They said, well, according to the project plan laid out by MDOT, that they decided to start at the other end. They couldn't move it, couldn't change it. It is what it is. Okay, so that's a vote on that. We then started talking about some different options as far as what can we do. We even talked about taking the southbound ramp, heading north on Dixie, and, I'm sorry, the northbound ramp on Dixie, heading north, which kind of does that loop around and then drops you into the fast lane. Well, it's about 150 feet to the southbound lane they just created, creating an artificial lane that goes across and reopening that up to, so now we'd have two exits with a southbound lane on it. They said unequivocally, no, they're not doing it. They're not spending the money on the asphalt or anything else like that. All of this has obviously caused a bunch of problems for people on Bluegrass. I got numerous calls back on Bluegrass about the fact that they can't get out of their driveway, they can't get into their driveway. There's issues about the fact if there was an EMS or an emergency, no emergency vehicles would be able to get down because between Holcomb and M15, there was literally bumper-to-bumper cars. This resulted in me putting up the things to no through traffic to try to alleviate some of that congestion through there. It also was due to the fact that, and if anybody wants to just kind of see, they can spend 30 minutes at 5th Street. I'm not advertising 5th Street, but 5th Street outside there, and you can watch people from Bluegrass gun it across their way on the diagonal trying to get into the southbound lane ramp for 75 South. It's crazy watching it. So with the no through traffic, that did seem to slow things down as far as the traffic goes in there. However, really probably the biggest change is really when the schools got let out. The conversation has been going on, and we have, with the sheriff's department, I've had the waymaster out there. Literally, I know there's still semis coming down and cutting through and all that. Literally last night, I was driving down Holcomb, and there was a semi following me all the way from St. Dan's, all the way around and back up to I-75 South Ramp on M15. So right through downtown, everything. The village is in a little bit different situation than we are. We don't own the roads, the village does. And so they are looking at potentially closing Miller Road. At the minimum, they have ordered barricades to make it the same like Bluegrass is now with no through traffic. So residents only. So that is probably gonna, it's gonna supposedly drive more traffic down to Washington. And hopefully, ultimately, because the interesting thing is that when we closed Bluegrass to through traffic, I would say probably 90% plus of the phone calls I got were from Springfield residents coming down Holcomb. So I told them to go talk to their supervisor and tell them to get that ramp built, because that ramp is actually in Springfield Township on Dixie Highway. Knowing that it was a joke, because we knew it couldn't get done. So ultimately, they're looking at probably putting through a permanent barrier. And that permanent barrier temporarily permanent, will block anyone from going off of Holcomb onto Miller, just at that intersection, not on Miller at M15. If they do that, that's going to then drive a lot more traffic to go back through Bluegrass. So when we talked to MDOT about what we're going to do and how we're going to do all this, they said in order to be able to do the same thing that the village is doing, we need a board resolution that says that the board agrees to close temporarily being able to turn onto Bluegrass from Holcomb, and only there. You would still have access to Bluegrass coming off of M15, the church, and that, I don't remember the name of the side street there, but there as well. And that's kind of that. The idea here also is that there's some little bit of a timing thing here. So I'm not asking to be able to close it today. I'm asking for the ability to, if it becomes necessary. What I'm kind of hoping is going to happen is that, I think what are kind of hoping is that they're going to close that southbound M15, coming south on M15, doing the underneath the bridge, sooner than probably school's going to start. So, I got them to open it back up with the help of all the residents calling. When they close it, and they are going to close that, because they're doing work under the bridge, so they can't have cars coming around and then going under it. They were also talking about potentially closing the southbound ramp coming north on 15. So the one that goes right by 5th Street. Even though it doesn't go under the bridge, they think for safety reasons they may need to close that, because they know from what they saw, traffic coming south on 15, we're doing illegal turns, left turns going onto that ramp. Then you got the people jetting across. They just think it's a thing. Now, they didn't say for sure they were going to do it, but they said they were considering doing it. If they end up closing we know for sure the 15, southbound 15 ramp to going south to 75, that in itself could start to alleviate some traffic, but when they first did it, there was still a ton of traffic on Bluegrass. So at some point, it's probably going to have to be done. I talked to the schools. There is not any bus stops on that road. There are 2 buses that use that road to traverse between Holcomb and M15. They said that they can easily reroute it down to Washington and have them go that way if necessary. So this is what's in front of the board. If we want to be able to close the Bluegrass at Holcomb, it's going to take a resolution from the board in order to be able to do it. And at this point, I'm opening it up to questions from, just come up and give your name and.
My name is John Weeson.
Yes.
I live at 7216 Holcomb, the first driveway around the corner. When I talked to the police, they said I could use it because I'm local. I'm only one driveway away. If you close that off, that means I can't use that road that I've been using for 10 years. My neighbor over here said, well, push comes to shove, you can park in my driveway. But that seems kind of ridiculous when I only live one house away. So I would like to still be able to use bluegrass. Does that make any sense?
We're not allowed to respond, but I hear you.
Otherwise, I gotta go forever to get to it, to get to 75 or come to town. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Excuse me. Mike Fetzer, Bluegrass Drive, 6875. And I'm one of the residents who really would like to have Bluegrass closed immediately. I think we've had enough experimentation. Many people in the community, not just on Bluegrass, but the community at large, are extremely disappointed, frustrated, and angry about the lack of government coordination and how this all transpired, the lack of a strategic traffic management plan. And we are glad that you have taken an initiative to look at this for us. I'm sympathetic to this gentleman's concerns. I understand that, but I want people to keep in mind that the additional 1 or 2 or 3 minutes commute that he's going to have daily really does not compare to ours, where we on Bluegrass Drive are living with the impacts of this mess daily, affecting our lives, our yards, our safety. It's just not the same thing. So I'm sorry someone might be temporarily inconvenienced with their commute for a few more months, but that pales in comparison to what we are experiencing. I sent each of you kind of a resume or a consommé of why Bluegrass Drive is different than the other roads that are affected. We were constructed differently. If you look at the road, it is not holding up. We're wondering who is going to start doing the repairs and pay for these repairs, because the road is crumbling by the day. If you need to make a decision, drive by and take a look at the margins. It's a narrow road, there's no sidewalks, it curves. The barriers at the end, one barrier closing one lane, they do not work because drivers routinely go through the other lane. I've seen vehicles push the barriers, people in their vehicles push the barriers out of the way, people get out of their cars to move the barriers. They completely disregard the signage that both at one end, preferably at Holcomb and Bluegrass, that whole end has to be closed off. We talked about the risk to people when we go out to get our mail. All of our mailboxes are right there. Actually, my butt sticks out into the road when I get my mail. It's dangerous there. It just is dangerous, especially to go around that curve. People take that speedway. It's a long and winding road. Speeding has always been an issue on the road, but now once people get past that barrier, they are the Indy 500, and it's just become too dangerous. So we're hoping that you will take a strong look at closing the road immediately, not waiting for further studies, experimentation, or complaints, but to take the action that we've requested immediately. Our road is different. It's distinguishable from all the rest. We have more residents. It's more narrow. It has no sidewalks, all of the factors that I described to you. But the closure does need to occur immediately, and it needs to be done in an effective way.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Sandra, back again, 9308 Oakmont. It's really a shame for what they're saying. I've seen them take pictures of people driving down their road, whether you close it or not, whatever. Miller, the 3 roads right there, everybody's gonna cut through if you close their road. It's gonna be the same problem for the same residents at the other 3 streets. The simple decision is to just put a temporary light at Bluegrass, or maybe Miller, whatever, a temporary light, and then turn off the light by the freeway exit. It would make the flow of the traffic 100% better. Consider that as an engineer, and talk to the guys about that, to keep the flow going and repair their street. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Where do you live? I live on your street. I'll get up here and talk. My name is Bill Zawicki. I live 6819 Bluegrass Drive. And I didn't get where do you live?
I live on Holcomb, the first house around the corner.
Going this way?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand him, but Bluegrass is a different story. I've had people come through there, it's like he said, he lives down the street, you go to get your mail. It's not just, I understand everybody's angry, but people say, I pay taxes. Well, your taxes ain't paying my road. I can't go out and get my mail. I'm one that's called the police. I thank the police. I thank you guys for even looking at it. But it is horrible to live there. Another thing I'd like to tell everybody, I was on the news, you might have seen me. My wife, I didn't call them, the news came, the media called them. We're considered crybabies on Bluegrass, but nobody would want to live on there and see it. Here's these big ice semis, even like right now, it's broke. I mean, it's blocked up, and here's big old trucks coming. The other thing is, they don't just come through, they say 25. They fly through there fast. You say talk about people, I have taken pictures, but I know people did. They've sent them in, the police have been really good. It looks like you guys have been good. I'm all for close down Holcomb and Bluegrass. I'm sorry he might have to go around, but when you see the traffic comes, it's even like on St. Dan's, I think you said something about St. Dan's. When they get out of church, it's like, boom, just flying. I try to mow my grass. You know, the road's narrow there, it's not a big road, but everybody flies down that road. I know it's temporary, but it's horrible. I've tried to back out of my house. I don't want to let you, and it was backed up all the way to Holcomb. Let me out. Call the police. Police say, call, we'll get you out. I said, don't you understand it don't work that way? So a blockage at Holcomb, I don't care if you do it Miller. I look at Miller when I go by, when I came here today. I'm going, this is horrible. So with the semi-5 or I-75 where they blocked it from Grange Hall Road all the way down here, shame on them. But I got a friend with the police who watched the police. They've been out on the street. They've been writing tickets left and right, the trucks. I watched them try to stop. It was a lawn service guy came in and they had a truck pull up to stop them. They just took off. There's total disrespect for people, and people say, I pay taxes. But you don't pay taxes on this road, and if it was in front of your house and it was happening, I'm talking about speeding. If you get up 6 o'clock in the morning and they're just flying, and the police can only do so much work, and I think they've been really good. But if you had a policeman there all day, they wouldn't do it. But it's like, I understand he doesn't want to go around, but Bluegrass, even when he goes through there, it's not a cut through. And everybody that cuts through there right now, you know where they go? 75. You yourself said you've seen it. Boom, right across. I leave my house was like that. It takes me 15 minutes. I'm the third house on Bluegrass coming from the church. 15 minutes to get out because everybody's turning left. So there's other things you can do. You could put a no turn up there. You could just say you can't turn up there and you stop the cut through because they're not going through to go downtown. They're going to 75. And when the police have pulled them over, they've told the police, they said, well, this is the way their GPS is telling them to go. So what they've done on the roads, but if you got to close down Miller's, I don't blame Miller. I see the same thing as we have, and it is horrible. So I feel for him that he lives there. I know where you live now. But it doesn't make sense. It is bad. And it's not getting any better, and they're talking about November or farther. So I've noticed even when I came here tonight, I'm coming down, and I said, now we got M15 from Dixie Highway all the way backed up. Trying to get, because that's the way they're coming through. People are trying to divert the way they're going to traffic. But you can't send it through. Our street is a small street. I don't know if you've been there. It's a small street. And we got the curve. It's like he lives on the curve. When they hit there, they come flying. I'm talking about fast. And they had total disrespect. I was walking down the road, and a lady was on this side. I'm on this side. The guy's coming this way. So he comes around, and he's like 300 feet from me. He's just coming at me, and I'm on the side of the road. It's like, what, you gonna run me over? It's like, you're even on the wrong side of the road. I'm too old to get in a fight. But at the same time, there's total disrespect for people that live there. Anybody in here that lives that think they got a God-given right to cut that, tell me where you live, and I'll come and block you in your driveway. I'll pull hole shots, I'll go, I'm not gonna do it, I'm just saying. We need to block it. We need to block it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Give one more chance, yeah, please. Go ahead.
My name's Dave Suter. I live on 6811 Bluegrass Drive, first house on the left, just past the bank. Many of the things that Bill said, I couldn't agree with more. And I kind of want to make it more personal for myself. These are just a few things, I assure you, just a few. I can't sleep past 5 a.m. That was never the case before. There's so much traffic at 5 a.m. It starts people going to work. I can't even sleep past 5 anymore. And now the motorcycles are in, it's rattling the windows. My mailbox has been knocked down 6 times. Knocked down. It's been damaged 16 times. My brand new truck was rear-ended 2 weeks ago. Not by my neighbors, by a passerby. Now my insurance is going up for the next 3 years because of someone just cutting through my street, just cutting through. I can't leave my windows open. There's no such thing as that because of the noise level. The large trucks could care less about us. We holler at them, we talk about it, they don't do anything, and it is absolute disrespect. They have drive down my lawn. They're driving on my lawn and my other neighbor's lawn and his lawn. He's on Snowflake. He's on Snowflake. They drive on my lawn and destroy his. As a matter of fact, the police actually put up, on his day off, bought stakes to put in the ground to prevent people from doing that. And not most of them are knocked down now. They've been run over. I can't keep my garage door open because there's so many traffic going by. I have valuable things in the garage, a lot of tools. So I can't even keep my garage open. If I work outside, I have to keep it at half point. Now I've had 13 operations. It's almost impossible for you to be down, but I've got to get down really low so that these people can't see into my garage, but I still have access to my front yard to do laundry or to do lawn work or just wash my car or vacuum it out. The way we're treated is unimaginable. You wouldn't believe the disrespect. I mean, if you say anything to them or if you show I've had people hit my garbage cans. And as I was mentioned already, at least 2 times I've had to go back down and put the sign in place because somebody moved it. First they moved it, they were kicking it. I guess my wife's girlfriend saw the whole thing. They have no interest at all in the residents there. So when it lines up at my house being the first house, which it lines up all the time, you can't imagine the language of some of the music that's being played. Obviously, it's summer, windows are down. Misogynistic, unimaginable, cussing, terrible language. I would never in a million years repeat or listen to myself. I am subjected to. I would like to see the road at Holcomb and Bluegrass closed. And it's important to also say that this isn't this year. This is the 3rd year that we've experienced this. This is the worst year. We should have said something much sooner. Had no idea that projecting this out the 3 years, it would be this bad. It has been 3 years. When the crossover was created, we experienced unimaginable amount of traffic. Now the one side being repaired, crazy traffic now again. And also you mentioned that, if they were to close the I-75 southbound at Fifth Street Tavern, what they did when that was closed, traffic was worse because they were doing, like you said, they went left down and hit the other exit. But for whatever reason, because of that, obviously very dangerous and illegal, traffic was much, much worse when that happened. No clue why that would be the case. And I know if they do that, it's going to happen again. So I want to thank you all very much for your time. And these are just the personal things that I've experienced. And my truck, my beautiful truck, is now damaged. If I were to sell it, it shows up that it's been damaged, it's had serious damage. So I can't tell you how upsetting that is. The first new vehicle I've owned, I'm 64 years old, and very disappointed. So again, please close Bluegrass at Holcomb.
Thank you.
If you just have one more minute. Again, Mike Fetzer, I just wanted to address the GPS fallacy and the light issue. There is a complaint by many people that the GPS confuses these intelligent people about the path to take. But the reality is most of the offenders are people who are not using GPS to find their way home from work every night. Maybe they check it once, but nobody checks every day. Moreover, one guy who stopped, when I talked to him one day when he was stopped in the long line of traffic, he said, well, the GPS. I'm like, well, it gives you other routing. Okay, he was a little dismissive. Well, he doesn't use GPS because 3 days later, he's the same person who gave me the finger when I looked at him in surprise again. So GPS is a fallacy, and I don't want it to distract or delay from actually closing the road. Secondly, I have explored the possibility of getting a traffic light at the end of Bluegrass Drive, even though none of my neighbors want one, I know, and I really don't either. But MDOT says that that is not feasible, given the placement of the current lights. There has to be a certain distance, and currently there are too many in a short distance on M15 and Main Street. But the main problem is the failure to sync the lights on Main Street. There are ways, if they would sync them, the traffic would move more effectively, and people on Miller would be able to vacate that road more readily. I've suggested it, but I haven't received any responses from anyone, and they're still operating the same way. The right as you come off of Clarkson Road probably should be eliminated too, because that also is an impediment to people coming off Miller. For the few cars that it saves a minute or so for, it creates a lot of inconvenience for people on Miller.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Grace Zizaki. I live at 6869 Bluegrass Drive. For the gentleman that's on Holcomb, I sympathize with him, but I am at the end of that street, so I am just a couple of houses from Holcomb, and we all are going to have to deal with some inconveniences. I use Holcomb all the time. I come home from Fenton. If that road's closed off, I can't get on my street, which right now there's a no left, excuse me, no left turn sign there anyway, so it's an inconvenience. We close the street off like everybody else. I'm going to have to go down to Washington to get onto Holcomb. It's worth the price. It's horrible what's going on our street, the aggressive drivers. I try to walk my dog. Excuse me, I am called every name in the book for walking my dog down the street. One of our neighbors had surgery and was told by her doctor to walk a block or so every hour for a few days. She was called everything you could imagine. They were yelling at her, get out of the street, because we don't have sidewalks, so there's no option. If she didn't get out of the street, they'd hit her and it would be her fault. Like others, our mailbox has been hit multiple times. It's dangerous to get the mail. One of my biggest concerns is that we cannot get emergency vehicles down the street. About a month ago, my husband fell. Luckily, he tripped, and it was a pretty good fall, but he was able to get up, and thank heavens, because when we tried to get him to and from the doctor, cars both ways down. They never would have gotten an ambulance if I had needed it. The damage to the property, like David said, lots of cars have been hit. Our grass have driven over our mailboxes. The speeding is horrific. And even if I'm trying on a rare, I don't do it that often now, but when I do try to walk my dog, if somebody comes flying down, they see you, they'll just speed right up. It's like they're trying to really intimidate you. There are, not too long after the no left turn sign was put up, which nobody pays any attention to, from Holcomb onto Bluegrass, we had a pretty nasty accident there. A young girl she had the right of way. From what I understand, I didn't see it, so I'm just saying what I was told.
She was driving northbound
On Holcomb. Yeah, and a guy went through the no left turn, cut in front of her, young girl, so I'm sure she was pretty traumatized. She wrecked her parents' car. Both cars had to be hauled away on a hauler, so it wasn't a small accident. And the minute the police were gone, everybody started turning left down there again. It's like you can't stop it. As Dave said, we can't open our windows. It's so loud. Our road was repaved, and I'm guessing at this, I'm going to say 15 years ago, and it was fine until all of this started. And it is absolutely crumbling now, and I don't think we as residents should have to pay for that. We never wanted any of this. And all of a sudden, we're in the position that the road's a mess. I live right where the little bridge to the river is. That bridge is not meant to handle this traffic. It is not meant to handle semi-trucks. We have had flatbed logging trucks come through, and when I talked to the road commission about it, fully loaded with trees, her comment was, well, maybe they were making a delivery. I don't think so. So, in the end, we're asking that this get closed right away. It's a horrible way to be living. If any of us had to sell our homes, there's no way. No one's going to buy our homes with the way it is, and it's a beautiful street. It's a lovely place to live up until a couple of years ago. So I think that we need to do something right away, not to be holding off and thinking, well, maybe if needed. It is needed, and we need to do it right away. And as with most of my residents, I am very willing to take the inconvenience that I'm going to have to take an extra 5-10 minutes to get home, to get this off the street and make it safe for us to be able to be out there. I don't think any one of you would want to be living in this situation right now. So please, I'm asking to please help us and close this off as soon as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anybody else? Yes.
Sure. Been sitting there making all my comments. Yeah, Larry Dudek, 6827 Bluegrass. First, I'd like to thank all of you guys that have worked at getting those barricades up, all the no through traffic signs up and the left turn signs up. What we need next is somebody to enforce them. We've been told by Oakland County they're not enforceable because they're temporary. Don't know if that's true or not. If it is true, I would like to know. Because if that's the case, I can get a lot of people on Bluegrass and a lot of people on Miller willing to park their cars downtown for 4th of July. So all those temporary no parking signs would also be useless. You know, obviously, nobody wants to go to that extreme. We don't want that to happen. Please, try and enforce what we've got. The other thing, all the cars speeding, everything that's been going on, true statement. I've asked many Oakland County sheriffs, please sit here. And I said, people going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, says, I don't care about them. Get the rest of them. And they're not interested. So you can sit on Glen Burnie, you could sit on Snowflake. Either way, with radar. Take your pick. It's, you know, a crapshoot, you know, fish in a barrel. It's so easy. The last thing that we've asked for, and this is going back a year and a half, okay, other regime that was in here, was stop signs, 3-way stop signs on Glen Burnie and on Snowflake, so that you have to stop. But again, it'd have to be enforced. Get rid of the speeding traffic. We were told no. We can't do that either. You cannot use stop signs to impede traffic. The email that I sent out right after that was, okay, I need someone there to explain to me why there's a 3-way stop on Miller. No more emails since then. Okay, you can do it. They choose not to. Moral of the story is we need people to enforce the rules and the regulations that are in there. This is horrible last year, it's horrible this year. Rumor has it it's gonna be horrible for the next 2 years. This isn't a one-time thing. Please help us. Okay? Thanks.
Hi, I'm Pam Tweed. I live at 6886 Bluegrass. We are the last.
I'm sorry, the address again?
6886.
Thank you.
We are the last driveway on Bluegrass. Excuse me. We have to back into our driveway or we can't get out. We have the no left turn signs. The people drive right on the grass. They avoid the no left turn signs at the corner. They drive on the grass, the people's grass at the corner of our street, who are technically their driveway is on Holcomb, now have lost probably 4 feet of their grass from people driving on it. Coming around from Holcomb, driving down Holcomb, coming out onto Bluegrass, they were avoiding the signs and driving on the person's grass and coming on the wrong side to turn right even. They were coming on that way. So people say to us, why do you back into your driveway? Well, it's the safest thing to do. It's even with a backup camera, to get out of your driveway is crazy. And the one lady who said that to put a light at the end of Holcomb, or at the end of Bluegrass, that's not the option, because then everybody will want to come down Bluegrass. Because then they'll be able to turn left at the corner. So that's not the option either. It's our driveway that they would be using if they were, the person on Holcomb would be using our driveway, which is fine with us. But in the meantime, to close that is the best option, even though it would inconvenience us also, because we go down Holcomb. We go down Holcomb to the right. We go down Holcomb to the left. It's just how it is. Will be an inconvenience, but it has to be done. Thank you.
Scott Ament, 6880 Bluegrass. Share the same concerns as pretty much everybody. I've been grazed mowing the lawn. If you're walking, mowing the grass, getting your mail, there's cars coming both ways. There's not, every once in a while you'll find somebody that's courteous enough to stop, let you walk down and then go, but many times there's people that'll just try and scooch by traffic both ways. So it is a little bit dangerous. As far as the school bus goes, I know that I have a daughter that's, one just graduated, but I have a daughter that would be picked up by the school bus. The bus stop wasn't an option on that road, just with construction or not. The road's too narrow, especially if there's any snow, to have your child feel safe, even walk, because they would have to walk down to Glen Burnie to be the school bus pickup. So I just told them not even to worry, there's no stop for us. So I don't know if there are any other kids school age that are riding a bus or that would ride a bus. So that wasn't even an option. Other than that, as far as many times I'm at the end closer, I'm 2 driveways in from Holcomb. Many times if I'm going to get somewhere, I don't even go down Bluegrass towards M15. I just end up going up to Allen Road and over, because I know I'll be able to do that much faster than waiting 20 minutes to get out on M15. So other than that, those were just a couple extra points. But danger is the one, is you have to, if you're gonna go down to get to the sidewalks to walk down Holcomb or M15, you have to walk the ditches and then navigate over the culverts, for the watershed there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. How about online? Is everybody online? Nope. Comments from the board? Trustee Morocco.
Questions for you, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
So, clarify what the MAFE is exactly asking us to do, and the Bluegrass Road through traffic light access to residents, isn't that still gonna leave one of the lanes open? Because that's not a full, I thought our resolution had to be a full road closure period.
Not both ends, just the Holcomb Bluegrass end.
So you're proposing that's a full-blown closure, which
Full-blown.
then it's enforceable, they can't go around the barricade.
Right, it'll be barricade.
And it makes no sense to come in the other way through the local traffic only. You're gonna put that sign up, so, because, what would be the concern is, that anyone that goes on there not knowing the road's closed at the other end gets trapped in front of, and all these, and all the. Oh, okay, well, you know what I'm saying, so.
Need a road closed sign there at M15.
That says road closed at Holcomb.
Yeah.
Because they are gonna be a learning curve because of that, because
Sure.
local traffic only is not an enforceable deterrent, like he was inquiring, so.
So I think that's reasonable, and I did work from the premise that MDOT would know what the heck they're doing, which is kind of silly. I understand. But with the road closure that they said, in order to physically block the Bluegrass Holcomb, that, you know, they would put in the signs. So, and I mean, when they said signs, I was thinking they were talking up Holcomb Road, but I would also assume, and I don't know, but I will find out if they also mean at the M15
So we don't
Bluegrass.
get a bunch of inflow
Exactly.
turnaround traffic
Right.
would be my
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah.
There is a sign there right now.
Well, I'm gonna say that when I came here tonight, I'm not a road closed guy, so you guys have done a good job to convince me. I'm familiar with your road, I don't use it often, but I've been down and it is narrow, it's winding, there's no shoulder. I'm glad you all turned out, that shows that it means something, because I would have been a hard no for closing the road, because I've been inconvenienced by road closures and had to suck dust for 6 months on a dirt road with people going 50 miles an hour down my street and not being able to even go outside for a whole summer. So, you know, sometimes you just gotta suck it up. But it wasn't a safety issue like yours was, it was an inconvenience issue. I do have concerns about Allen and Cranberry Lake Road, because now that's where everybody's gonna go.
But
So,
it's dirt, they won't be going fast.
Well, some of it's dirt and some of it's residential, it's not all dirt, you know, it's the next cut through, okay? So I wanna, you know, I think that we need to figure out how that's gonna be addressed. You can only shut so many roads down. You know, the detour is Dixie Highway to M15 and back. Well, that's not, you know, that's ridiculous. It's gonna be the Washington, road that they're gonna cut through, you know? Most likely, because the
Yeah.
stop sign there has helped that situation
Right.
immensely. But I'm just concerned about the, you know, how you want to do the road closure and how we're going to, you know, just, I don't want to get in a rabbit hole here where we're, every time, you know, we have this, because it happens, Washington's going to get closed when they do the Mill Pond, you know, dam. At some point, you know, hopefully not at the same time that this is going on, but you can't, you know, I mean, but it's coming, you know, at some point, and that'll be another one. Also, how we're gonna address, the other cut-through roads, and I mentioned it to you, Chuck, about Chestnut Hill and Spring Lake, now that they're all newly paved, and those residents paid out of their pocket to pave their roads, they're not gonna want everybody cutting through between Walden and Sashabaw. So it's not just your road, it's cut-through roads, Pyramid, all the roads that are just destroyed, that the county's not going to fix for you. There's nobody that's going to step up and fix these roads for you.
We're the ones that's 75 is all being.
So I understand all that. I'm just saying, those are my concerns, is that how, you know, I think we, as a township, we want to get kind of a basis of how we're gonna address the calls from the neighborhoods and the road closures, and especially the Allen Cranberry Lake, because I can, you know, see that that's just the next lot. There's only so many cut-throughs, unfortunately.
But while you discuss it,
Is there,
it's not happening.
trust, dude,
I just want to thank the residents for showing up and providing individual commentary. It is important, it does matter. And, you know, in consideration, I mean, I do see both from your front yards to the turn onto M15, what a danger is. And someone's gonna die if something's not done. And I really hate to see that. So I thank you for being here.
If I could, a quick point of order on
It's,
that.
it's,
The placement
no.
of the order of the barriers,
Stop.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I feel compelled.
Okay, well,
These
I'm sorry,
barriers-
that's not part of the
These barriers
purpose.
must be placed carefully, because if they're not, there already is a pathway in someone's yard to avoid them. That's critical, and that's where an accident is going to occur.
So-
I'm sorry.
part of the, I wanted to address some of the comments that were made. The stoplight issue was brought up. MDOT said unequivocally, no, they're not going to do it. They just said they won't. The timing of the lights, that has been a continuous conversation between the city manager, Jonathan Smith, and MDOT. They said they are working on to get those coordinated. The Waze and Google, they have been called and asked to not put that as a direction, and they've been done that through MDOT, has reached out to them to do that part of that. But again, I believe that probably 90% of the traffic is outside this, maybe commercial trucks, is local residents. The temporary Driving through for the no-through traffic, MDOT would actually have to, the state police actually would have to come through. I think it's called the TRO, and I don't remember what it stands for, but it is not enforceable. It is just, it's just not. The Michigan State Police would have to come out and do it and certify it and everything else, and they're not going to do it. They already said they won't do it. It's not part of the actual construction area. Since it's a detour, it doesn't, which is in part of the reason why, after conversations with the Undersheriff Buckman, he's like, I don't want to write tickets out there anymore. It's not safe for us if it's not enforceable, so on and so forth. And I agreed. I did ask the Waymaster to spend more time out there, even though they have written a obscene amount of tickets compared to last year. I told them that, he goes, we've written a ton. I said, not enough. If I got a semi following me down Holcomb, please spend more time out there. They said that they would do that. I'm trying to think of the three-way stops, just because the reason why it works and they were able to do it is because those roads are owned by the village. They're not owned by the town. Township doesn't own any roads. They're not owned by the county, and that's why they have a certain amount of authority over it being a city than we do as a township. Yeah, okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments up here?
Just
Treasurer
a
Brown?
potential change to the motion when it's made, that it's calling for the permanent closure, I think it should say temporary closure of bluegrass instead of permanent.
Okay.
The effective date to be determined by the supervisor. That covers, the need as it stands, we could have it or not have it, but that's all, just that permanent should probably not say.
What is that, Chuck? What do you think, what are you
I think they're
thinking?
I think what they were saying that they were gonna use those, those dividers in the highways, those cement ones?
Concrete.
Yeah, the concrete ones. I think that's what they were alluding to. But I will double check to make sure that that is what they were talking about.
And what are you thinking, since we're signing it to be done at your discretion? What are you thinking?
So, one, guidance wouldn't be bad. I don't mind having some guidance here on what that should be. Listening to the audience, it almost seems like it should be more immediate than not. My thing was probably going to say is that if they don't close any of the ramps for I-75 going south at M15, then it's probably going to be before the school year starts. Because it's just, it's terrible during the school years. It looked like from when I had some drones flying over just to kind of monitor what the traffic looked like, it looked like it lessened. If you drive by, you can see Miller's backed up all the way where Bluegrass isn't. So I would say no later than the school year if those entrance ramps are still open, or if the village closes the Miller and that starts pushing more traffic to Bluegrass. So, those would be the minimum criteria. If the board decides that they would like to do it immediately, then that's fine too. I will call MDOT and get them to do it.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to do it sooner than later, so that people can start learning that road's closed.
Okay.
Because you don't want to wait till school starts and,
I think that will cut
Yeah.
down on the traffic.
yeah, because they're going to, your typical people that are going, zooming through there will learn. I think it'd have been a learning curve, right?
Yeah. Trustee now, Matthew?
I'm gonna say I used to use it a lot because I do go to St. Dan's. My dentist is on that road, but when this happened and I saw how crazy the backups were, I purposely avoid it like the plague. And all those other side streets that get backed up after church, it is faster to go all the way to Dixie and come back around. So people, it might be a few miles out of your way, but it is faster. You don't lose that much time taking the longer distance because they're bigger roads, you're going faster, there's traffic lights and it moves, so.
We have had 57 car backup.
Yeah, so, it would be my suggestion to do what the residents want, just close it now.
Okay. Any other
Are we trying
comments?
to get a consensus here?
Yeah,
Well, I was trying to do something.
okay.
I don't know, I
Trustee
had my
Tre-
hand
all
up for a long time, but now I
Paul.
forgot what I was gonna say. Don't you guys know you gotta put your hand up to talk?
We're getting old.
They're not gonna call anybody, wait.
There's gonna be a motion.
Okay. Can I get a
No, I'm
motion
sorry,
then?
I'm sorry.
Do you remember?
Yes, I
Okay.
do now. I think the risk is that we say, well, we won't do it now, but we'll watch, and something bad happens and we're gonna regret it. We're gonna just be sick if something happens to a resident there or somebody on M15. And while we're gonna make some people mad who have to go around, we're not gonna feel as bad about that as we will if something happens to a resident there or somebody gets killed. I don't think I don't know what the chances of that are, but I don't wanna be in that position. I think we'd do it immediately.
Okay, all right, can I get a motion then, please?
Can we fix that motion to, okay, well, supervisor's discretion, or we could just say it
I'll
immediately?
just say immediately.
Yeah.
Move
I
to
mean,
adopt
I'm good with
resolution
that.
number 2025-021 for the temporary, would it be temporary permanent? Because there's temporary now.
It's not closed.
Permanent means it's never gonna open again.
Okay, so temporary closure of Bluegrass Road to through traffic, allowing access for residents only, effective immediately.
I
There we
think you
go.
have to have the word permanent in there with it, because it can't be enforceable.
That's word
You gotta say temporary.
because it can't be, it has to be a no access, correct?
Temporary.
I'm sorry.
A temporary no access.
Well,
So it can't even be allowing for residents only, because it'd be closed.
Maybe
There's
what you should
questions-
just say,
I thought I'd
the
ask
full
the attorney.
closure, would full satisfy it?
not me.
Well,
I'm
you're not fully closing the road,
Full
you're
closure
closing one end
from
of it,
Holcomb.
correct?
You're only
Right.
calling
just
one
collect-
entrance.
you're only
Right, at
closing
Holcomb
one
and
end.
Bluegrass.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's-
I think the permanent is what's throwing it off.
But the permanent is what gives it, which is what lets them write the tickets.
Okay.
It can't be temporary. The permanent closure of Bluegrass
leave it the way it
Road
is.
to through traffic,
No,
allowing
it
for
would-
residents
No, it's
only
closed.
to
Yeah.
a date uncertain. I mean, I think the MAFE is,
No, it's gotta be moved to adopt resolution number 2025-021 for the permanent closure of Bluegrass Road at Holcomb to through traffic, and it wouldn't even allow residents because it's closed, effective
Yeah.
immediately.
if you add the word Holcomb and, yeah, then
Add
it,
Holcomb.
then it makes the right
Yeah.
Bluegrass
location
Road at Holcomb to
Yeah.
through traffic, effective immediately.
permanently, yeah, until.
Okay, and then when do we put in that reopening will be considered after construction or something like that?
With the reopening date to be determined at the supervisor's discretion.
Yeah.
How's that?
Because it's temporarily permanent.
It's permanent at Holcomb. It's not temp,
Be temporary.
well, it's permanent until he decides it's not.
Listen to that.
Okay, now we need a second.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Can I, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carried. All right, the last item. Oh, nope, we got two more. All right, on the regular business,
Oh, we got a lot.
You got 3, 4 more.
You're free to go, just please, quiet, yes.
request to amend the policy amendment for the procurement for petty cash credit and card policy. What this is doing is it's changing one paragraph in the township's procurement policy to exempt the DDA and CIA to allow them to use their own.
Can we just, folks, we still have quite a bit more to do with the meeting, and if you could, we appreciate all your input tonight, but if you could step out, we'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Supervisor File, can we make can I make a motion to just do 5-minute break? We've been here 3 hours, so if that.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, talk all you want.
Like a motion to resume the meeting?
Motion to resume the meeting.
9:14.
Second? Second?
Just,
All right.
what time?
All those in favor at 9:15 to resume the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Okay, let's go back to regular business number 9. Number 9, again, is to exempt, or to modify the township's procurement policy to allow the DDA and the CIA to come up with their own policy that will ultimately be approved by the board to approve purchases. It's a one-paragraph exemption inside of the current policy. The DDA does have a policy, and the intent here is to allow the DDA to do a little bit more single sourcing and have a little bit more discretion over who they pick and the criterias that they use to make the determination of who to award the contracts to. So, before we start, any public comments? No? Online? I don't think we have anybody online anymore. Okay, board.
I just wanted to add to what you said, is that on items, on expenditures that have already been approved by the board for the budget.
Yeah, for the projects.
You know, for the project. So it just takes that extra step out too of us having to come back to reiterate a contract that's already been approved to be in the budget, you know, or the expenditure. So I'm on the DDA. I support this. We think it's going to help us move things more quickly to make the improvements on Dixie Highway. And I think it's going to be a helpful tool for us to expedite things.
Okay. Yes, Trustee Matthew?
So, when you're going out, are you still requiring like 3 bids and stuff like the other stuff, or?
It's going to depend on the cost of the, the cost of the unit and the specifics of the thing. So, for instance, we've been working with a sign design company, you know, from the beginning. So, we're being conscious of taking people's designs that we spent months and months working on, and then, you know, letting other people bid on those designs. So there's just some different things about it, but yes, following the procurement policies, like the flag company we're using is the only flag company that we're proposing to use, because we've spent a lot of time with them designing the flags, trying to get the flags. So we'd like to use the local flag company, and a lot of this is based on so we can use local people and have them help us do design work on the project as part of their proposals, you know, type of thing. Chuck, I think if that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, yes. Any other questions or comments? Treasurer Brown?
It sounds like we're basically saying we've picked somebody and it's not going out to bid and we're gonna use them because they've helped. How do we, I mean, at what point, I mean, I'm okay and listening to that concept, but what if I bid it and it can be done for half as much? Let me finish, please. I'm a little nervous about that. It seems like that's a long way from what our procurement policy is, that, because the only time we've done this in the past was where it required requesting multiple bids that were viewed between an employee and the supervisor to ensure that we had something being followed. In this case, you're not suggesting, you're basically saying you're not gonna put it out to bid. You've picked somebody and we're using them.
Well,
So that concerns me.
That's not, that's part, yeah, on item, like, there's some things that are low purchase items that are within the parameters of the purchasing power that you would typically have, or the supervisor would have. Those, what we're saying is, if the DDA wants to get flags and they're $15,000, and we've been working with a design company to do it, it's normally would be in the parameters of the supervisor to have his authority to do that and not put it out for 3 bids. But what we're saying is, we don't want to come back to the board and ask them permission to order the flags that are only $15,000. Now, on the landscape packages and the big ticket items, we have Carla and Wortman putting the RFP and Nowak and Faust putting the RFPs together, and those will be put out. You know, those high ticket, high dollar items will be put out for multiple bids under the normal thing. But when when multiple bids come in and we pick the bids, as long as it's in the budget and it's within the law, we wouldn't have to come back to the board to get approval to make that selection. But doesn't mean we didn't follow the multi-bid process on high ticket items.
So I just want to say that I don't think $15,000 is a small amount. we lauded an employee who sourced products from a different place in the DPW and saved $2,000 doing it. $15,000, I think I would always want to get quotes on $15,000 when I'm talking about flags, which a lot of places make flags. I'm just a little bit concerned that we're giving the authority to do something that's outside of our policy. If we're gonna change the policy, change the policy.
That's what we're doing. That's what this
I
is.
don't know that I wanna, but what I'm hearing is, he's not gonna put it out for bid.
So in the, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's all right, no.
Okay. So with this, there is a policy with the DDA on their procurement, and what they do is they have to follow their board. So it's almost like a mini version of what we're doing. And what this is saying is that we're gonna empower their board, the DDA board, to make the determination based on a budget that has been approved by this board. So if they want to go through and do a single procurement source, they can, just like we can authorize a single source procurement if we want to. It doesn't mean they're always gonna do it, but they still have to have their board to be able to go through and do that.
Yeah, one person can't make these purchases.
Right.
It's a board, it would have to be a consensus of the DDA board to do it.
I just want us to be very cautious. I think if you start going down a slippery slope when we can pick people, and we didn't go through a bidding process on $15,000. I just wanna make that point, and I understand you guys feel like you got this lined up right, and I'll watch as it goes along. We're gonna see the purchases at some point anyway, so.
For sure.
Right, absolutely.
All right.
Other questions? Nope. All right, can I get a motion, please?
I move to approve the proposed amendments to the Independence Township Procurement Petty Cash Credit Card Policy as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, number 10, request to approve the policy amendment, Special Assessment District Public Roads Improvement Policy. This has been by Treasurer Brown and myself, and I'm going to let Treasurer Brown go through and explain this one.
I'm the secretary now.
Did I say secretary?
No, but I am the secretary.
Oh,
so-
you're both. You're acting secretary and current treasurer, elected treasurer.
So the board certainly understands we've kind of created a new process where we're trying to help pave public roads. We've got the 3 projects that we've done. As we go through the process, we've identified some things that we needed to clean up. We knew that would happen as we went along. So we've got some amendments to the policy, which is attached. I'm assuming you guys looked through that. And so we're looking to tweak that. And I just want to follow up on this, and there's a few more things in here related to the special assessments. I certainly know right now that as soon as we get these finalized and we get them on the tax bills and everybody's been paid and things are all finished up, we're gonna wanna go back and we're gonna spend some time reviewing the process while it's still fresh in our minds, so that we really can fine tune sort of the layout of how we go through the process for these to make it successful in the future as we go along. And that's something we'll bring back to the board to review too. So,
And these have been reviewed by the Kelly firm, right? Okay. Any questions in the audience? Nope, yep.
All right. Good evening. My name is Ben Hastings at 5583 Adderstone Drive, Clarkston, Michigan. I'm also the project manager, as many of you are aware of, for the Spring Lake North Subdivision Special Assessment District. First and foremost this evening, I'd like to sincerely thank each and every one of you, as well as the dedicated employees of the Independence Township, for your support and guidance over the past year. Your collaboration and responsiveness have been instrumental in helping us move forward, and we are truly grateful. I'm proud to report this evening that all 3 road improvement projects in our community have now been completed. Even more encouraging, each of these projects was delivered either on target or under budget and ahead of schedule. that kind of result is only possible when you have a shared vision and effective communication, and I want to thank everybody, both here at the township and all the many volunteers that helped us out as well. The reason for my address this evening is to bring to your attention a couple of potential concerns related to the Special Assessment District Public Road Improvement Policy and the Indemnification Hold Harmless Agreement. While we're incredibly appreciative of the current process and the overall success we've experienced, we believe there may be opportunities for some clarification or adjustment that could benefit future projects and residents
Excuse me.
navigating this path.
That is the next agenda item, the hold harmless. So if you want to hold your comments to the next agenda item, then we can cover that at that point.
Okay, I can do that. I just wanted to say on this point, it's important to realize that on page 3 of the amended policy, it does state that in order to pay vendors, the HOAs will have to sign this indemnification agreement. That's in the second blue line. Maybe Mr. Kelly could clarify that for us. What I'm concerned about this evening is that if we approve this as it's currently written, it may require us to sign that, which is okay, except that we want to have the opportunity to take that back to legal counsel for the HOAs involved and have it reviewed. And because we're under a timeline crunch, because we're on net 30 terms, I want to make sure that the vendors are paid on time. That way we don't have penalties
Okay.
with these projects. So that's the basis of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I don't think we're online anymore, so any board comments?
Yeah,
Trustee
and
Hayward.
I'll bring that up too on page 3, paragraph 3 of this. It says, in this regard, the township shall have the authority to pay. That's fine. And this may be tweaking if we're gonna go back and look at this, but, because I did have an opportunity to look at the indemnification agreement, that it has to be signed before the funds will be released. Well, technically, that should probably want to be in the petition portion of that, because I've read the addendum. I know that it's next, but it kind of does tie together. I would want to see that before I sign a petition to say that, you know, I'm going to have to upfront some money and, you know, if we want to sue somebody, you know, and we haven't talked about that yet. But that should be moved to more of the beginning process of this whole thing. Because you don't want to sign a contract after the work's already been done. Now all of a sudden say, hey, you know, I did all this work for you. Now I need you to sign this contract to say that you're not gonna sue me, and if you are, you're gonna have to pay for my costs. So so Dan, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about or referring to. And it could be because you don't, you know, I mean, I talked over with Ben here regarding it. Because we do know that's part of the process, and, you know, in looking at that whole thing, you would want that certainly signed, or at least presented to a resident, that if anybody's.
For notice purposes.
For notice
Yeah,
purposes, for sure, because that would make me determine whether I would sign a petition or not.
Well, we could certainly amend the language to say that when it's included in the petition,
Right.
this is not mandatory language, so the township still has the option as to whether or not
Okay.
to request one. But we could say, if you want to, amend this policy to say that we will provide notice by way of the petition
Okay,
of any indemnification clause or contract.
Well,
Right.
could we just say that it's not retroactive? Because technically the other,
I know that's probably coming next, right? So,
Yeah.
because, you know, these SCDs have already been approved.
right.
right.
And now for us to put something into it, I think it's good to have it in the policy, we want it going forward, but to put it in now is, I mean, we put it in because we want to get it into the process, but the question is, what's the impact of us, and what's the legal basis for someone to say, we already had a contract, you can't insert this, you can't hold us to an amended policy because we already completed the process.
Yeah,
Well,
and
you can amend a contract at any point in time as long as both parties agree.
Yeah.
But
Well, no, nobody, I
we
wouldn't
did
agree
this
to-
on the
yeah.
fly, right? We all
Right.
know
No,
that
no,
we
yeah, I
did this
understand.
pretty darn quick, and if we want to add it in the future, fine. I mean, I just think we should have some language in
Oh,
there.
I'm okay with all the,
this, yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm just saying that this part of it, that'd be getting paid, you know, as far as having that signed, it needs to be in the petition process. Because to expect somebody to sign that after all the work's been done, I can tell you nobody would sign it.
Now, if you want to get this accomplished, I mean, if you go to that, it says in this regard,
Yeah.
comma, I'd simply say, after providing notice in the petition, comma,
Yeah.
the township may elect to decide to have an indemnification agreement. I could just add that and that would cover it.
Well, well, then this is kind of should be second, then we should be talking about the agreement first, depending on where we're going to put it.
Well, I don't,
Because
as I
then
understand-
you're suggesting whether we decide we want to implement the agreement or not.
Yeah, but you're still gonna have that authority. I'm just trying to get this done tonight, if
Right,
you want to.
right.
So I would just add the language that after providing notice in the petition, the township would have the option to have an indemnification agreement. Now, if that's your
That
policy,
excludes them because.
Right,
the
it would
petition
exclude
Got
them.
it.
Yes.
Right, but then going forward.
You
then
could
would-
still have
You
it.
would still have it, but you'd want it up front before you started anything
Right.
because you want to protect the township.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So, I mean, you know, it's up to you if you want to discuss that part of it too.
I'm fine with it. I don't,
This is Dave's deal.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about it too, because let me go look at it. Because it basically says, well, for these particular ones, that this is the second one, this is L11, that talks about the indemnification. That,
I'm gonna pull, we're gonna pull 11.
oh, you're
11
just
has
gonna
no-
pull it?
Yeah, because
Yeah, that's true.
I think.
Okay.
I think that it's, I don't know how, again,
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. You know,
legally,
we've already
completed
approved
the
it. We
process, and now we're
apparently-
changing a policy and saying, now you do this.
Right.
I don't think it's fair.
Retroactively, yeah, that
Yeah.
could create some issues.
And then we'll
So-
To the
discuss this
supervisor's
policy at a
point,
later
if it
time
was
in general.
voluntarily agreed to, of course
We
you
can
could.
approve the policy now.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about just this indemnification that we want to have going forward, because if I
Sure,
read
that'll-
this, I'll just say, as it stands now, if I was a resident, I'd be like, do you guys want me to have my roads paved? Because my HOA can't come up with $30,000. And even if I don't have an HOA, I have a group of residents, how am I going to come up with $30,000? If I need, oddly, who's going to sue the township because they didn't like the roads? You know, I mean, I would think the
This
lender
will all
would be
come
less.
back as we reevaluate
Yeah.
beginning to end of the process and come back to the board and talk about how we
Right,
prepare
that's
for
what
the
I was
next one.
asking, so we're gonna discuss the indemnification at a later date
Yes.
regardless. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so do we want to amend this policy along the lines of what I indicated? We would just simply make a motion that we're going to add after, in this regard, after notice having been provided in the petition, comma,
Mm-hmm.
and then keep the language as is to approve this tonight. Is that good?
Yep.
All right.
any other comments from the board? No? Okay. All right, can I get a motion then, please, to, for the smoke,
Move to approve amendments to the Independence Township Special Assessment District Public Road Improvement Policy as presented.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Don't good on that. I need to back up. I believe the resolution we passed should have been a roll call. And Dan, do we need to redo that? Because it was not a roll call.
Why does it need to be a roll call?
I'm sorry, was it unanimous?
Yes.
It was unanimous, but she's got, I'm just saying, I'm being the secretary today and I'm just reading her notes and it said roll call.
Oh, this says simple majority.
This one says-
No, I'm
Okay.
talking about the
Bluegrass.
motion for Bluegrass.
Oh,
I'm backing up to
Roll
Bluegrass.
call
All the way
dash
back.
simple majority is what it reads.
That's what the,
What? No,
so
I'm on,
Carrie
I'm
put it
on,
different.
I'm on the
oh,
motion
yeah,
for.
it
Roll
it
call,
says
simple
roll call
majority.
dash simple majority, yeah.
read-
It does? Okay, well, this one just says roll call,
Okay.
and that's why I asked, but if it's
Yeah.
fine, it's fine.
I don't think you have to do it. When
I
it's
don't want
unanimous,
Carrie
you
mad at me tomorrow saying you messed up my minutes. All right, good enough.
All right,
Do I need to make a motion to pull
Yeah.
11?
you need to make a motion to amend the
Take no
agenda,
action.
right? And then make a motion to pull it.
You
just
just take
pull
no
it?
action.
Or we take no
Would you
action.
skip it, Dan?
Yeah.
Do we make a motion to take
We'll
no
call it.
action?
Call it, and then you can just make the statement that we're not gonna take any action.
Okay, on,
Everybody should have a chance to make a motion.
Yeah.
Number 11, request to approve the identification hold of harmless for Sharing Woods, Spring Lake North and Chester Hill Farms. We're looking to take no action on this.
I'll make a motion to take no action on this agenda item.
That's action. We just need to not do anything.
Oh, we don't.
No, we just don't do anything.
Yeah,
Oh, just don't do anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody want to make a motion? Nobody makes a motion, we don't.
Okay.
All right. moving
I'm
on.
not I rescind my motion.
I motion
Okay,
to
all those
rescind
in
I'm
favor?
doing nothing, I'm doing nothing right now.
All right, last one. Request to adopt resolution number 2025-022 and 2025-023, 2025-024 for the prepayment of 2025 SAD for Sheringham Woods, for the SAD for Spring Lake North, and for the SAD for Chestnut Hills Farm.
Okay.
And I need a motion for each one individually, so can I get a motion first for Sheringham
I'll do
Woods?
A. I'll move to adopt 2025 resolution number 2025-022 regarding repayment for SAD number 1 Sheringham Woods subdivision as presented.
Second.
All right, can I get a roll call? Interim secretary, clerk, whatever.
It's a simple
You,
majority,
Paul.
but-
Have to do a roll call.
This one also says simple majority, but
Trustee Hayward,
yes.
trustee Morocco,
Yes.
supervisor File,
Yes.
clerk Lubeck is not here. Treasurer Brown, yes. Trustee Almatu,
Yes.
trustee Tedder.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Motion carries.
Can I get a motion to adopt the resolution for Spring Lake North?
I need to recuse myself.
I'll make a motion to recuse trustee Hayward. for
Support.
motion B.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're recused.
Move to adopt 2025 resolution number 2025-023 regarding repayment for SAD number 2 Spring Lake North subdivision as presented.
Second.
All those, or roll call?
I'm catching up. Give me a minute. I gotta have this done for her correctly. Trustee Morocco,
Yes.
supervisor File,
Yes.
there is not here. Treasurer Brown, yes. Trustee Almatu,
Yes.
trustee Tedder,
Yes.
carries 5-0.
Okay. And lastly, can I get a motion to, regarding the prepayment for SAD number 3 for Chestnut Hill Farms subdivision?
Move to adopt 2025 resolution number 2025-024 regarding repayment for SAD number 3 Chestnut Hills Farm subdivision as presented.
Support.
Roll call?
Supervisor File,
Yes.
Treasurer Brown, yes. Trustee Almatu,
Yes.
trustee Tedder,
Yes.
trustee Hayward,
Yes.
trustee Morocco.
Yes.
6-0.
Okay.
Carries.
All right, moving on. Communication future agenda items report. Fire Department monthly report for February, March, April, and May of 2025. Building Department for May of 25. Report Oakland County Sheriff's Office, May of 25. The minutes for the Planning Commission of April 10th, for the Planning Commission of May 8th. The minutes for Zoning Board of Appeals, May 7th. Minutes for the DDA Board, April 16th. Minutes for the Residential Open Space Advisory Committee for March 12th, April 19th, and May 14th. The minutes for the Investment Advisory Committee from February 13th, 2025. And then minutes from the Audit Advisory Committee for February 19th, 2025. Okay, and then board member comments?
I've got something before board member comments.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do we need to retroactively appoint me as the acting secretary?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Board comment.
Trustee Morocco.
And I just think that this was a lot on an agenda. Having one meeting a month, 533 pages of documents was a heck of a lot of information to go through. So either we gotta dial back a little bit, in my opinion, if we're gonna stick to the one meeting a month, or I'd like to have 2 meetings a month again if they're gonna be this big of agendas, because I don't think that I was able, I got through a lot of it, but I didn't get to spend the time honestly on the SAD stuff, which I appreciate Dave. It was personal to him and he put a lot of time into it, but I do like to be able to get through it all, and I found that this packet was just a little overwhelming. is my opinion.
Yeah, this pecker was big. Okay, anybody else have a comment?
I just agree with Sam. That was a lot.
So I agree too, it was a very big packet. I do want to add that we are going out, so this is kind of an FYI, we are going out to bid for the planning and the engineering. The engineering contracts are all up in the end of July, so we will be going out to bid. The RP goes out tomorrow. The current vendors have been all notified that we are going out, so I learned that from the last time, and we were supposed to do that, so we did it this time. So they all been notified, and we will, like I said, we're gonna be going out for planning. Planning's, I don't even think we have a contract, it's just been ongoing with Carlisle, but we are gonna go out to bid on that one as well. So that's just kind of an FYI, and we will have, it's gonna move pretty fast, because the contracts for the vendors, end on July 2 days before our board meeting. So we're gonna put out the notice, we're gonna put out the RFP tomorrow, or by Thursday on BidNet, and so it'll be all out there, and then it's gonna run through for the 2 weeks, and then we're gonna have another week where we're gonna go through and review the RFPs, go through a committee there to go through and look at it, and then bring it to the board for the recommendations.
Is it just the two consulting firm, the township engineers and the township consulting firm for planning and zoning, or is there more than that?
No, it's just those two, the planning and the engineering. So those are the ones that are coming due.
And so we can expect those in the August meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we're gonna have those in the July meeting.
If it's 2 days before,
Their contract.
2 days before the deadline, you mean, to have everything in for the meeting?
No. We're gonna have to get an exception from Carrie to, when we go through and make that selection, which we will be making a one-day exception. So we'll pass the deadline by a day, which is gonna allow the exception because the contracts actually end 2 days before the July board meeting. So I'm also gonna be going back to them and saying, give us a 2-day extension, but, you know, the odds that we're gonna need them in the 2 days are slim to none, but just in case. Okay? All right, and I would also like to make a comment that I think that this is why local government works, is that because people participate, so I appreciate everybody in the audience. And I apparently missed somebody because.
Missed me, I never got to comment after the stuff on the SADs. You never asked for comment.
Would you like to make a
We're all
comment?
tired. I just wanted to speak for 2 seconds.
All right, yeah, please, it was my mistake, so.
We didn't adjourn yet, so go ahead.
Yep.
It's Paul Marmon, 5847 Misty Hill Drive, Clarkston and Chestnut Hill Farms. I was the project manager. I lived this project for the last 9 months. I want to thank you guys for coming up with a viable solution to something that we've been trying to get passed for 20 years. And I want you to know that today the state of the subdivision is kids are riding bikes again, scooters are out, people are taking walks, strollers are going down, and the subdivision looks like, you know, a very desirable place to live. And I guarantee you property values will go up. So whoever does the assessing, I hope they'll see it. It'll be easier to sell a house. So it was fabulous. I also wanted to say that Allied was a tremendous partner. The communication was great. It never would have worked without it. But that whoever, if you go forward with these in the future, which I certainly hope that you do for other subdivisions, that whoever's running point on it for the neighborhood, it's not something you can go and pick a contractor and walk away from it. You have to be engaged every single day, 7 days a week, and you have to communicate in my sub with 120 homes and get everybody on the same page so they're not locked in their driveways, they have to be rescued or don't have to be towed. And we did that, and we pulled it off under 6 weeks, so ahead of schedule, and $240,000 less than what was originally estimated the cost would be. And I embedded myself with the crew for 6 weeks from 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night or later. And it got done, and it's beautiful. And I ask every one of you to drive through my sub. Don't cut through, but drive through. And see for yourselves, because I'm smiling every day when I wake up now. And my neighbors, they love me. We had overwhelming support. There's a few naysayers who just didn't want to pay because they think that the township or the county should or the state should. But too bad, it got done, and it got done for well under 40% less than what we were quoted by RCOC 5 years ago. So thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's end on a positive.
Thank you.
There we go.
couple of us drove through this afternoon, so yeah, we drove through, and it looks like it looked at when I used to run through there, 35 or 40 years ago.
When it was a
Yeah.
farm.
No, when it was Chestnut Hills,
Oh, when it first got
back
built
in the 80s, yeah, and it looks the same, so.
Yeah, all right.
Again, I just wanted to finish the thought that I think that what's great about local government is that even if we disagree, we can be civil and not break out into fights and that I've seen on TVs and all that. So I do appreciate the fact that all of you are acting and behaving in a very professional manner, even on things that we find we might be on the opposite ends of the scale. So I appreciate that. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
All those in favor? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.